Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod.
My name is Ichabod Crane.
Name's MacGyver. Colonel Jack O'Neill, SG-1.
I am Batman!
Hello, I'm the Doctor.
So there's this man, he has a time machine. Up and down history he goes, zip, 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 getting into scrapes.
For years, and maybe more than that, right, Mac? But how long has it been? Has it been 6, 7 years ago?
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
Hey, now wait a minute. Now wait just a minute.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day.
I've got something for you.
Oh, merci, Sonor.
Just one more thing, sir.
Oh, boy.
Just like that. Bing, bang, boom.
At this point, I'd settle for the boom.
They'd love it here, don't you think?
This is what I'm saying.
And by the way, where is your podcast? Tell everybody that's here.
Welcome to the Never Gets Old podcast. The podcast of all we love in TV, movies, music, and comics. With your hosts, Mac Jackson and Nathan Schell. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Facebook, and YouTube. Donations at paypal.com, at macwjackson@comcast.net.
Listen to my chapin songs, DJ saying that they're too long. His guitar may be silenced, but his soul goes on and on. Alone again, alone again. His stories were like us, a beginning and an end, alone again. Now I listen in my room, cats in the crate.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Never Gets Old podcast. I'm your host, Mac Jackson.
And I'm Nathan Schell.
And this is our big 100th episode.
I know it's hard to believe we've hit the milestone of 100 episodes.
You know what we're going to do for this one?
Surreal.
You know what we have planned for this episode?
And what is that, Mac?
The same thing we do every single episode. Nothing special.
Well, I mean,
it's all special.
I was going to say it's all sort of special in its own right.
Right. But there's no parade going to be marching behind me or fireworks later on.
Well, the only people that would, benefit from that are the people that watch it on YouTube, I believe.
Exactly. Well, you could hear fireworks.
True. And the marching band behind. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for all the audio listeners. So to start off this week, I got some unfortunate news where I work. Yeah. I work for one of the big companies that the world knows and uses. I'm not going to say specifically who, but it's a big one. Mm-hmm. And I was told months ago, I think it was last year actually, when I was still working from home, that they were shipping my department off to Colombia.
Ooh.
Which sucks. But you figure, okay, they're like, they give you the whole speech because they make you show up for the, Zoom meeting where they go, based on the numbers and what the company figures is the best option for making money, we are going to stick it to our United States employees to send those jobs overseas where we could work people harder and cheaper. So, and I just go, okay, well, so then they call you and they go, okay, here's the good thing about this company. They will try to fit you in someplace else.
Within the company. Well, that's fortunate. I mean, it still sucks that,
Well, buckle up because they go, okay, here's your 4 options. I said, okay, well, one thing I do not want to do. I will not be happy. If there's any way to avoid it, let's avoid it. I don't want to be stuck on a phone. I believe I said tethered to a wire was my way of saying it. And they said, okay, well, no, it's okay. You don't have to do that. We have these other, 4 places. And I said, well, how about these 2? Because the other ones weren't really buying. It was still, you had to be on the phone somewhat. And I just want to sit in my cubicle, do my job, leave me alone. let me do what I have to do. And if I'm stuck on a phone line, it's constantly talking. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put on the fake happy face and hello person.
Yeah. Having to make the occasional phone call or
that's
what have
fine.
you, that's one thing, but basically being relegated to a call center. Yeah. That's
well, this week, now they had picked where I was going to go. And I thought, okay, so at the end of April, this job that I have now, I'm teaching my replacement in Colombia for the past 2 months, I'll say. Okay. She's doing fine, very smart, able to do it, whatever.
So at least it's not like they're dumping it in the laps of people that are incapable.
Well, that's the problem. They will get people, unfortunately, who don't speak the language. And my co-workers, some of them need a translator to help with that communication. So imagine you're trying to teach somebody the job and they can't even understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
that would be
frustrating.
Yeah.
So I all right, I'm lucky I got someone who's capable and actually is trying and all that. Then we get a phone call Monday where we have to be part of this phone call.
Okay.
9:00. I'm like, who are these people that want me to join? So I join it and they give you the whole speech. Okay, essentially, those positions that you thought you were moving to, they are also going to Colombia.
Of course.
Well, long story short, I got one of the last positions available to move me to. Other people did not. People got laid off. Yeah. So here's the bad news too. I have to be on the freaking phone. I have to do collections, which is calling the and it's a grade below what I do.
Oh, geez.
So
you're going to end up getting a pay cut, aren't you?
I better not. I hope not. Not that I have a choice, but I have a problem with this. Again, trying to be thankful that we were placed somewhere. On the other hand, my plea is to our congressmen and our senators and anybody else who can actually give a rat's rear end and do something.
Yeah.
There's
something. There's no reason for what you do to need to be outsourced.
Not at all. And as a matter of fact, here's the big problem too. I'm trying to think of it from all sides. It's a stupid move because just because you might save a couple bucks, you are now taking a job from somebody in the country who already knows it really well, has done it for a bunch of years, can get along with people. Now you're going to give it to people who don't speak the language. So already your customer service factor is shot down the tubes.
Yeah.
They don't understand what happens if. Well, I can't answer that if, if it were my job, I can do it. They can't.
Yeah. Well, and here's something else. Like this would make more sense. Like if they were going to expand the departments to include people from South America.
Sure.
Okay, in that regards, it would make sense to have someone like yourself train. Okay, hey, lady from Colombia, here is what I experience. Here's what I do. Here's da 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 da. Boom. This way, you already have a leg up on theoretically someone that would be hired off the street.
Right.
Okay, you're good. You're great. And now they have a division or whatever department for all calls that are routed through the U.S., all calls that are routed through South America, insert wherever, that would make more freaking sense.
Well, this job that I do is not customer service. It is paying bills, making sure that we get things paid. And it is not something that someone who doesn't speak the language should be doing. They don't even use the same money system that we do. So that's fun. I've been trying to fight with them going, no, you can't enter this information on this paying thing backwards. It has to be this way. Otherwise, our system will not recognize it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have another month before I then now have to go back to the office too, which is great. I have to go back in. I didn't get my shot yet. And I still have to go in for the training for a job that I am dreading. I've been filled with anxiety. I can't sleep at night. I'm up like 4 o'clock in the morning looking at the clock, trying to go back to sleep. During the day, I'm just like,
lethargic and
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, no, dude, I completely understand that. Like, that makes no damn sense why that company would decide to do something this boneheaded.
right. You know why?
Like,
Because they want more money in their own pocket.
greed, man. It's like there are some people that don't understand why I have I don't want to say I have a laxed philosophy with commission credentials, but I have a very laid back philosophy with the business. Like I hate to say it, it's kind of like it is what it is. It will do well or it won't, and it's, I know people look at my product and then they look at other people's and they're like, well, wait a minute, I don't understand how, you're getting $5 for this, but yet these other people are charging double, if not triple, and theirs doesn't even look like it's the same quality, and like, I don't understand, they just don't understand. I'm like, I don't have the ego a lot of people do when it comes to being a self-employed individual.
Sure. Because
I get that from my dad.
It's not about the money for you. It's about the product.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I like this past week. Well, I showed you before we started recording what's on the horizon coming here soon.
Yep.
Little prop replicas and quite honestly, the only reason I started it was because I wanted one. I wanted one freaking prop, and I'm like, you know what? I went online for those so that everyone's aware. Mac and I obviously are fond of Stargate. One of the little props that I always kind of thought was neat was the little freaking vial of tritonin, which is basically just purple water that they used for Teal'c and Braytak and the other Jaffa. I want to say late season 6 on.
It was.
And, I'm like, that's really cool. Something like that. I'm like, okay, that's a small, innocuous little prop. That's not going to be that expensive. Wrong. Couple $100 for one. I'm like, you're out of your mind. Yep. It's a little glass vial filled with liquid. You're nuts. So I went online and I started doing a little bit of research, found out I can get those vials. I've got access to a printer that I can design damn near anything and everything for, because I design ID cards for the business. So I came up with artwork for a little tritonin vial. And I'm like, well, if I did this, why don't I branch it out to like the PIM particle, super soldier serum, gamma irradiated super soldier serum, and just the list goes on. So that's what I've been doing off and on for like the last 2 weeks. But this week I had somebody finally order a Star Trek ID card from, I believe it was the TNG era.
Okay.
Picard and Riker and all that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. They included their name, their position, and where they were assigned. And I'm like, well, they didn't pick their division, because the cards I have set up where if they're part of one division, it'll be like, if they're in command, it'll be red. Sure. Well, depending on the era, because they like to shuffle the colors around just to drive costumers crazy. But yeah, so I'm like, well, wait a minute, why isn't that set up that way? Oh no. Here I had forgotten to plug that information into the field for all those cards. So I went online, or I went onto the website, and I fixed it. After I fixed it, it hit me with Star Trek Discovery after season 3, with the last episode of season 3, everybody on the ship gets issued a new uniform. No longer the blue with the little deltas down the sides, with the striped weird whatever effing pattern they got on the shoulders, And I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. Theoretically, I can use this as an excuse to introduce a new ID card. So that's what I did. I sat down and I drafted up what I thought the card would look like. And I'm like, okay, I'm digging this. And I looked to see what divisions they have. Command is still red, but it gets weird with operations, which is usually what engineering is falling under, or engineering, security, science, those divisions. Some people that were listed as one type of department, like I think they've taken a little bit more of a liberty with what divisions fall or what departments fall under what divisions. So it's like, okay, this is going to drive me flipping nuts. So those I have not released yet for two reasons. One, I don't have good photos of everybody yet because there's two really good photos of the actresses standing there in their uniforms, but everyone else, they just have them standing in kind of like a line here and a line here. So to get a really good photo, I'd have to like use, Photoshop foo. Yeah, Photoshop foo to like Photoshop somebody out so that it just looks like one person sitting there. It's like, oh, you guys are driving me crazy.
Yep.
But it's fun because but it's still fun because I'm like, I've been able to luck out with some of them, but it's just absolutely wild. But anyway, that little diatribe. I'm going to be doing Picard and Lower Deck ID cards as well. Now, the Lower Deck ID cards, I think, are going to just be absurdly fun because it's a cartoon, so I can have a little bit more fun with it.
Sure.
Although I might cheat and just use the same template for the Picard era because I think the uniforms are darn near identical. It's just this is an animated version and this is a physical,
Yeah.
But yeah.
With this job thing, though, I'm trying to be patient. People are telling you, well, it's about how you use your time. That's really what the heaviness of the whole thing is, because they expect me to make 30 calls a day and bug the mom and pops about collection, and but I figure it'll pass. I'll either it'll either that job will come to an end and I have to start from scratch, or eventually another position will open up, and I know I can do the job. It's just I won't be happy doing the job. It's not what I want to do.
And that's and that's frustrating because you've worked there a good bit of time.
Yeah. 6 years.
I was gonna say at least 5, but
Yeah, it'll be 6 in a couple of months.
Yeah. Because I remember when you were working at the other place and you were not super happy.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, that became it's so funny because that was
I could have said miserable AF, but
the lowest now comical job experience just of how bad that was. I mean, I think back, I try not to think about it, but occasionally someone will remind me one of those stories. I'm like, that was real. That was like a sitcom kind of goofy, if it happened to somebody else, you'd go, oh, wow, that's amazing. But when it happens to you, just get me out of here. You don't know how to treat
I completely.
So let's move on to some fun conversations.
Absolutely.
Where shall we begin? Did you watch Invincible?
I have not watched it yet. No, I've been seeing people praise it online, and it's one of those situations where I feel like it's getting shoved down my throat or in my face.
It just came out yesterday, so that's why you're getting so.
That's probably why, because everybody's jumping on it right off the bat. I've been doing a long overdue rewatch of SG1.
Good.
And it's funny, like within the first couple seconds, I'm like, okay, know what episode this is, or yep, knew that one, so that's been fun.
Invincible though is great. The animation is beautiful, just
it
like
looks
the
like
comic.
a fun show.
The story is well paced.
How long are the episodes? Are they half hour? Or are they?
No, about an hour.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah, I'm thrilled because I'm like, wow, this isn't over yet. Oh, there's more. All right, cool. And then there's after credit scenes. Like they start to show the credits and then they go and they show something else. The third episode is a little mouthy. But again, it's not gratuitous.
Yeah.
Which again, there is some language in it, but I don't feel that they're doing it the DC way where it's we can, so we're gonna all the time. This is more of a feels like, okay, they're not holding back if they feel like this is what the character would say. And I'm like, okay, this is good. I could show this to the kids.
Yeah.
The third episode I might not, just because there is certain language that's a sexual reference that I'm like, they don't need to deal with that. I'll skip over that. But boy, it's addicting. If the years have been quite a lot since the series ended, the comic book. But now on Comixology, they're doing a 50% off all their Invincible stuff.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a lot of deals right around the right times for like with Black Panther, with
exactly.
this.
So I'm like, get for $5 for a volume.
Yeah.
Get it. Or $3, something like $3 to $5.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's a good and the thing that he did with that series is he doesn't stick it in one time frame like where you have to do with most comic books. Like you can't have them grow up. If it's a kid, they have to be a kid. If you have them grow up, now you lost your kid stories. It's like Peter Parker. Peter Parker can't go past his early 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in this, though, they do. Things happen. Things do not stay the same. So when you get a chance, let me know when you see that. But I highly recommend it. I'm happy to say.
I'll have to check it out.
It'll
probably be after I get caught up with, or not caught up, but rewatch SG1, which I'm averaging about a season a week.
Okay, good.
So,
you saw the Snyder Cut?
Never heard of it. No, I watched the Snyder Cut, and I had to laugh. Everyone's, I don't want to say gripe with it, but the one sort of quasi negative thing I kept hearing from people is there's several moments where it's just very slow paced, and that doesn't work for a film. And I'm sitting here like, okay, but here's the thing. To me, once a film or a story hits realistically like a 3-hour plus time frame for telling its story,
right,
I never really view those as a film anymore.
Right.
Like at some point it becomes kind of like an event.
Yes.
And before Jess and I got the chance to watch it, somebody had actually said it is broken down in parts. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of strange. I wonder what they mean by that. And then sitting down and watching it, they literally mean part 1, part 2, I think it goes up to part 6. And then there's a prologue or an epilogue.
Epilogue, yeah.
I'm like, okay. As soon as that hit me, my brain immediately shifted from movie event to miniseries. Immediately. It just clicked over, and it just, in a miniseries, you need those slower moments so that you have time to process what you've seen, what you're about to see, what you are seeing. And I enjoyed it. While we're watching it, the entire time I'm like, I don't understand why this is rated R. That there's not gratuitous violence, there's not gratuitous, there's not, Wonder Woman's not running around with her tits, bouncing around out there freely or anything. I mean, and I'm like, it didn't dawn on me until the epilogue where they had Batman drop his F-bomb, because I think he dropped an F-bomb and then someone else did earlier in the film. Cyborg. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be why, because with the way military, with the way movie codes are, if you can use the F word once for a PG-13 rating. The moment you use it twice, bam, instantly hard rated R, just because that's their, that's their guidelines. And honestly, I mean, I know you with language, you're not a fan of it if it can be avoided.
Sure.
It's unnecessary. It didn't, to me, neither one of them really bothered me. The Batman one, to me, signified that this is Batman in a very darker situation than we've ever seen him in. I mean, for goodness sake, he's willingly working with the Joker.
Sure.
But spoiler for anybody that hadn't seen it yet. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think this did a better service to Ezra Miller, and I can't think of the young guy's name that played Cyborg, because I
Right.
liked the way those characters were better in this version of the film.
Yep.
It didn't even dawn on me that they had changed Steppenwolf's look, because like we were watching and Jess goes, Steppenwolf looks really a lot better. I'm like, oh yeah, he does look better, I guess, because it just didn't dawn on me because I was just like that uninterested in him in the original cut of the film. But yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Aquaman, I thought was better portrayed. You know, he still had some of those just kind of odd lines, but it wasn't as dude bro,
sure,
party wannabe, whatever, you know. The story between Cyborg and his father, I liked a lot. I loved the two. I think there was only 2 scenes with Barry and his father. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end, and I liked the addition of 7th Justice League member. I am a little miffed that they didn't give him some action time, but I understand, you know. And I did, the one thing that I'm actually really glad they kept in was the line at the end where Bruce is talking to, or Clark's talking to Bruce, thanks for helping, how'd you manage this anyway? Oh, I bought the bank. And just that look of, you could have just paid you could have just paid the house off. Just like, I like that, one thing that I do really appreciate that they kept that undertow and carrying it over from Batman versus Superman is Superman needs that link to humanity. He needs Lois. And I like that they kept that even through to the epilogue nightmare scene. Although Jess pointed this out. How stupid are people? You got Lois Lane going to Superman's memorial every day to the point where she remembers the cop's coffee order. Then you get numerous superheroes showing up. Half naked Superman is standing there looking all kind of out of sorts. And you got, now with Batman, you could assume that maybe he was saying it low enough that not necessarily everybody could hear him. But then you got freaking Lois Lane standing 5 feet from a cop, screaming and hollering Clark.
Right.
And then you got Wonder Woman, probably the smartest one out of the whole sort, just calling him Kal-El, which that makes a whole hell of a lot more sense because not everybody knows that Superman is Clark. But it's kind of like, guys, come on, that was kind of a silly thing to do. But no, all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm hoping we're going to start seeing a turn where DC will finally just start getting on the ball with these superhero movies.
Yeah.
I've been seeing some good things about Dr. Fate being introduced into Black Adam. And I like the fact that they got Pierce Brosnan in the role. I think that'll be a fun role for him. I know Dwayne Johnson is excited for the role because I think he's been excited since 2014, something like that.
They announced it.
Whenever they announced it, he was like, all right, I'm on board, let's do this, and seeing actors be excited on that level and still being 6 years removed, not removed, but 6 years later, still excited for it. That's something nice. Like Zachary Levi, I know he's excited for the next Shazam movie because I think they just announced someone else is going to be in that one too. Helen Mirren, however you pronounce her last name. But anyway, but yeah, with Zack Snyder's Justice League, I liked it. Like I said, I didn't view it as a movie per se because of the length, and it really did feel like this felt kind of like the culmination storyline of things. Not necessarily to the major caliber of like Endgame or Infinity War, but it still felt like it held its own weight to it, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of those movies that I think Jess and I said once we were done, we would probably gladly watch it again before it leaves HBO Max, and then probably watch it again once it's inevitably released on physical format, because you know it's going to be.
We watched it a little bit Friday night, and then a little bit, or the rest of it Saturday.
Okay, so you split it between the. Okay,
yeah,
and that's a good way to do it. Definitely, since it is set up in parts, so you can be like,
I would have
okay,
watched it in one long length, but by the time we got to it, it was late on Friday, and I could see Everly starting to get snuggly, and I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna fall asleep."
Doing the head bob.
Not yet. But when it got to part 3, I paused it and looked, and they said, "Let's wait till tomorrow." I said, "Okay."
Yeah.
I summed it up in a tweet because I try to be tweetful, where I said, "Okay, just saw the Snyder Cut. Do I think Zack Snyder understands or cares about how these characters are? No, not at all." And I said, Batman and Superman don't kill. I didn't even mention the cursing. But am I glad that we finally got his version, his long version? Abso-freaking-lutely. It was pretty great. Again, the only problem I had was the F word, not because, I don't like the F word, but this started a conversation with Mikey where he's like, Batman doesn't curse. I'm like, right. And it's not because he's goody two-shoes. It's because if you think about Batman, he's trained his mind and his body to be so disciplined that he's almost, that's why he has a hard time showing emotion to people, because he takes out what he thinks is impractical. So he doesn't muddy the water with unnecessary movement or conversation. And cursing is unnecessary. So I could, obviously take it out. Not because it's good or it's bad, but because it's slang, essentially. You don't see Batman going, "Yo, put down those guns." You don't do that. "Hey, homie." No, drop the gun. Like, that's it. That's what he sticks to, what it's supposed to be. So Mikey and I had that nice conversation. He's like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. It doesn't make sense for him to curse."
Yeah. Well, that's why I said, for me, it showed this is Batman even in a situation he couldn't prepare himself for.
Sure.
And that, to me, I think that's why I was able to accept him saying it there and not earlier in the film.
Well, and that's the other thing too with the whole thing. I hope this is the end of the Snyder verse, because I find out, first of all, there's a bunch of things. As much as I enjoyed this movie, Superman still has not been Superman. He's not inspirational. He's cool when he showed up and the axe went to get him and he says, "I'm not impressed." Very cool. But he's not da 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 da. There's still none of that. So that's a problem. I don't care about how long it is. Like you said,
I have a theory on that.
It's an event.
We'll talk about that once you're done with your thoughts.
Okay. So it's an event. The movie was fine. I don't care about the length. They said, like, what was it? 10 to 20% of the movie was actually slow motion. Did you see that thing? I
didn't see that percentage shared, but I did notice that certain parts were slowed down and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which, that's a stylized thing, whatever.
Right.
I mean, for certain characters, it makes sense, like Cyborg, because of his ability to process
and the
everything.
Flash.
And the Flash makes sense.
But they're talking about them like walking up the steps slowly on their way to whatever.
Superman, it kind of makes sense, but
Sure. Anybody who moves fast, you have to slow down.
Yeah.
Wait. I had a problem, or should I say I missed the soundtrack from the first movie. I wish they had kept a lot of that. Like the moment when they all have to fight Superman. I love that moment because it's shifting, and I remember the exact moment where you hear da, 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 when the Flash is coming at him and he turns and is fighting him. You get that little chill of ooh, Superman. That's Superman music, But instead, it was a lot of Mikey goes, "Enough of that." Every time they show Wonder Woman, they're doing opera singing.
Yeah, and that's that weird stylized thing that Snyder likes to do.
Yeah, and it was enough. Like I got tired of it too, but it's funny because I thought, all right, I'm gonna recognize these scenes by hearing it because I know, oh, here comes the music. Ooh, it's not there. He changed the music. And unfortunately, I don't think it was for the better.
I think had they kept the music, or at least used elements from the music from the previous one, that would have just chef's kiss, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That much better.
So, what else was I going to say? Oh, the one scene I did miss. I wish they kept it in or found a way to squeeze it in.
Which one's that?
The scene when in the beginning of the original version with Batman on the rooftop capturing the criminal and a parademon shows up.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they hadn't kept that one
in that 5-minute clip. I thought, wow, they are moving him like Batman. That's that moment that I went, he's Batman. That's great. That was great because he's crouching and he's moving fast enough, and you feel like he's in control of this. And it's and I didn't, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they didn't include that one. Like I'm glad they got rid of the sequence. Well, they didn't really get rid of it. They refilmed it, I think, where he's talking to Aquaman in the hall in that town, and he makes that quib of I thought you talked to fish or whatever. It was an unnecessary cutesy line.
Mikey and I always talk about in the original version where they're in the Bat Cave or the Bat Warehouse or the Bat whatever, and he walks over and he goes, "Do you talk to fish?" Like, that Batman isn't an idiot. He doesn't like that was and I'm glad they yanked that out.
Yeah,
because it made him look dumb.
Yeah,
and Batman needs to be brilliant. He's in a room full of superpowered people, and he has
I did like the line where, you know, he's introducing everybody to Alfred and he goes, "I work for him." And if you think about it, it does kind of make sense for Batman to have a line like that because Alfred is his tie to humanity. I mean, granted, he is human, but Alfred is that voice on his shoulder in a lot of senses, literally, because you know. So I like that little nod to the father figure there.
And I appreciated the optimism in Batman. I appreciate it where he goes, "Faith, Alfred, faith." I'm like, there. There's Batman.
It showed the impact that Superman had on.
Right. But again, the whole freaking universe was messed up from Man of Steel forward when they decided to make Superman dark and whiny, and you know, I was talking to someone recently, and they said it was Scott Tipton. He said, "Your father's telling you let people die." I'm like, yeah, that's not. I remember when that was released in the trailer, and people going, "What the heck is this? Jonathan's an a-hole." And then, you know, "Don't save me, son. I'm just going to get killed by the hurricane." Everything from that, you know, granted, they have, like, to go back to what you said, we're hoping that DC figures out to do movies like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Shazam because they're fun, they're complex, but they don't have to be dark and full of hate and, you know, sepia colored all the way through the whole movie.
Yeah, I think this goes into my theory. I have a strong theory, and with what we saw between Batman versus Superman and the Justice League, specifically the epilogue sequence, Snyder wants to give us either a Red Sun storyline or an Injustice storyline, which is fine. That's great. I'd love to see that storyline on TV or on film.
Or down the road.
The problem is with that is for people to be able to handle that, they would still need Superman to be Superman.
Agreed.
So they would almost have to do it in a way where the Superman from that universe, either Red Sun or the Injustice version, would either have to come to our realm, or our Superman would have to find himself there.
Well,
to have that balance, because
the way I've always put it was, and I agree completely with what you're saying, but and here's what they should have done, which is what Marvel did. If you're going to compare apples with apples, you need to set the foundation for the franchise solid in what everybody wants. Keep these characters true to who they are, not your artsy fartsy. I'm going to do subtlety and do an upside down painting in Lex's office. You know what that means? Get it right first. Give us the simplified Justice League where everybody, Batman is the dark side, but still has the heart. Superman is inspirational. Barry's the scientist. Aquaman is the, I'm the king of Atlantis. All of that. Give us that done right for a couple movies. Then be as artsy fartsy as you want, because it would spin better because we already know what the foundation is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And instead, they decide to reboot Batman every year or every couple of years, like people change, house paint or whatever.
I was going to say underwear, but I change my underwear more frequently than every couple of years.
I would hope. I mean,
at least lately.
Like, I'm grateful that they gave us Wonder Woman on the big screen. I'm grateful that they gave us Shazam, Aquaman, and we're going to be getting these other characters. I'm grateful for that. You don't need to redo Batman every 5 years. You don't need to redo Superman every couple of years.
You don't need to see their origin is basically it. Let's just,
like I'd heard something where they're going to be doing now, of course, depending on what site you read the article from, they're going to spin it their agenda one way or the other. From what I'm looking at, or from what I've seen, it sounds to me like they're going to be giving us, and I'm probably going to butcher the guy's first name because I can never remember his first name, but I think it's John Irons Superman.
No, John Henry Irons was
John Henry Irons. Thank you.
Yeah, he was Steel.
Right, but
they're thinking about having
to be introduced him. They did introduce him as Superman, as a literal Man of Steel.
But no, the one that they're thinking about, and I hope it's not true, but again, if they make it from a different universe and they don't try and pass him off as Kal-El, fine, I don't care.
Well, I mean, even if he's Kal-El from another verse, that's fine.
If there's a black version of him from Earth 2, which his name is Zod-El or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And he looks like he looks like President Obama in the comics.
Huh.
So
kind of a weird nod, but okay.
Yeah. So that's a possibility. But
it was my understanding whatever Earth he was on, he was always I always thought he had the same name whatever Earth he was on. Okay, right. So see, that's something I didn't know.
Well, when they did New 52 and they came out with the Earth 2 comic book, in the first issue, that version's Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman get killed in the first issue. So then it's about the new generation coming in, blah, 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 blah. Skip ahead a bunch of years. There's this new version of Superman from a parallel universe, I don't know, whatever, where I don't know if he was related to General Zod or what, but basically he becomes the Superman. And as a matter of fact, it's not L as in E-L, like our Kal-El is Kal--El. It's just the letter L. So it's like a diversion. Zod-El, I think it is what it was. But
well, I mean, Kryptonian namology is just weird.
Right. But so yeah, that way, if they do it, that way they're not shutting the door on more Superman movies. They can actually combine the two and have Henry Cavill version with that one, which would be fun. It'd be like a Spider-Verse kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the reasons I don't want any more Snyder whatever was because his plan was in the next movie, Batman dies. And in the third movie, Superman's son becomes the new Batman. Again, you don't know the characters enough or care about them. Let's just start again. Just start again. Give it to somebody
he's basically
else.
Pulling a Sam Raimi.
Yeah. So no, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the longer version. Let's move on now. Let's start again. Let's
hopefully the fans getting the the Snyder Cut of the film will not result in a lot of fan campaigning being rewarded. I know it sounds like a weird way of looking at it. Like, I already heard people joking about, oh, well, now Peter Jackson can release his cut of
The
Lord of
Hobbit.
the Rings films. Well, here's the thing. The Lord of the Rings films, he did release his cut. It was called the extended cut or the extended edition, you know, where you could literally kill, I did the math, 12 hours and 15 minutes.
No, thank you.
I'd happily watch them over the course of probably a weekend.
Whew. You have to really love that franchise in order to do that.
Well, it's one of those that it's not something I would want to watch every month or every year, but like, okay, you know, I want to watch something that I haven't watched in a while, and I want to watch a good, solid story from beginning to end. That's Lord of the Rings. That's a good, solid story from beginning to end. It's a long ass story,
right?
But it's a solid story. Hobbit, no. Pardon my English. Why did it need to be 3 movies? There was no reason. It could have been a 3-hour, 3.5-hour, 4-hour film. That would have been fine. I mean, I would have gone through a lot of popcorn,
sure,
but that would have been fine. That being chopped up into 3 films was totally unnecessary.
Right.
Granted, he also did fill in a lot of stuff from like the Silmarillion, and I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. But you know, the Lord of the Rings fans can just understand that.
I told you I tried to listen to the audiobook of that, right? Because years ago I've tried to read it and I went, nope. And then I tried to listen to the audiobook, nope. And God knows, I don't know. It was The Hobbit. I started.
Which audiobook did you try to listen to?
It was The Hobbit. I was trying, like, you know.
Well, no, the reason I ask is because it depends on who's narrating.
Oh, it wasn't even the narrator I had a problem with.
Okay.
It was just, I couldn't. I'm like, wait a minute. All right, I'm supposed to be following this path, but now you're going to diverge and tell me the long history, chapters worth of this other branch that I don't even care about. And, you know, and I remember listening to it for a few days and just went, I am not happy. I am not enjoying myself listening to this. This has to end. But what else? Oh, did you watch the trailer for Suicide Squad?
I did. Now, I know a lot of people are kind of confused by this because they think it's a remake of the movie that just came out the other year.
It's a continuation.
It's more or less a continuation. It looks like it's going to be at least absurd, and I'm going to say fun because I'm not certain about it. I mean,
sure.
I appreciate the vastness of insane celebrity cameos and characters that they're introducing into it.
Sure.
I'm amused that King Shark is going to be in it. And
Sylvester Stallone.
And I'm even more amused that it's being voiced by him, because I would never have thought he'd be one to voice a freaking shark, but you know, it looks like it's going to be what I'd hoped the other Suicide Squad movie is going to be. It looks like it's going to probably be a popcorn flick.
I watched it, and somebody, my writer friend, John Shepard, said he put it really well. He said, DC movies, for the majority, seem to be being run by bean counters, where they're trying to follow whatever the trend is, whereas Marvel...
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Right? Marvel is being run by people who understand the characters, understand their audience, and are respectful for their characters. And I went, you know what? There's your difference. You're right. Yeah. And so, like,
I could definitely see that.
And again, it was the Red Band trailer. I hate that there are things that are Red Band trailers. I hate that that's now, well, you should expect it to be foul. It's going to be foul. Buckle up, kids. You're going to, you know. So, okay, so I can't show this, whether I can enjoy it or not. This is not a family movie, because the jokes are vulgar and and not even intelligent. Like, you know, you get Samuel Jackson dropping his F-bombs. At least there's a rhythm to it. Whereas this, I want you to eat a bag of blah, 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 blah. Even her comment.
Yeah,
at the
that
end,
was I felt like that was unnecessary.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be better than Birds of Prey was, but I think it's probably going to be just as unnecessarily crass, and that doesn't thrill me. Like, I just want to enjoy these characters.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I mean, and then again,
you know.
for all we know, the crassness that exists in the film could be exactly what all we saw in the trailer too. I mean, that's the weird thing with a lot of these trailers. A lot of times they misrepresent the film too. I mean, look at scenes from half the Marvel movies have at least one or two scenes in the trailers that aren't even in the movies.
Right.
So, I mean, that's entirely possible.
Well, let's come back to this when it does come out. We'll discuss this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll
One thing
notes.
one thing that made Jess and I both happy about it is we're seeing Harley Quinn, at least in the traditional colors we're used to seeing her, the black and red.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, she was crass, so I was just like, and plus I still had a bad taste in my mouth from that Birds of Prey. I'm like, please be better. Please, please.
Well, and her and I talked about that. The Birds of Prey movie wasn't really a Birds of Prey movie.
Right.
They used the name for recognition to try to dupe people. It was more so a Harley Quinn movie, and we were seeing, for lack of better wording, the possible beginnings of a Birds of Prey type setup.
But you know those characters. You know those.
Yeah, I know.
Those were not the characters at all.
The character that they had as Cassandra, that character was more in line with freaking Stephanie Brown. Just they were having her played by an Asian actress because they wanted to have Cassandra in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, that
Cassandra is one of the best fighters in all of DCU.
Exactly.
And she doesn't talk. And
exactly,
she's slender, and she has a code about her. This, you know.
Yeah, it's
just the
but
whole.
Yeah, no, I think the bean counter running the show is a good analogy.
Right?
Absolutely. Somebody in the accounting department being like, okay, what's the trends? Okay, okay.
Do they like the F word? He said it's like they're trying to chase Deadpool, which, by the way, I hate Deadpool, even though I thought Ryan Reynolds did an excellent job as the character. Mm-hmm. I've always hated that character before the movie. The movie was spot on with the character, sure. Mm-hmm. But again, people like the R. I remember a couple years ago, people saying R. We need to have Kirsten and vulgarity. Can we show some boobs? No? Okay. Yeah. In the meantime, let's check. Okay, so we got these darker characters, right? Suicide Squad. We can get away with saying the F word a bunch. Can we be who's writing it? Can you throw in some vulgarity? Take that, Deadpool. Ha ha. How about you think about your audience?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like certain characters that works. Doesn't work for every character.
Right.
So
it's
anyway, yeah, I'll see the Suicide Squad movie. I'm curious to see what James Gunn's take will be on it. I think this one will be better than the previous one. Mm-hmm. Where on the spectrum that is will be determined. I like that we're getting the Thinker. It'll be interesting to see how he works into it. But it's funny, we were watching the trailer and Jess goes, "Is that who I think it is?" I'm like, I don't know, because it happened so quick. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that was Peter Capaldi. Okay, that's kind of cool. It's good to see him out and about on screen again."
Yeah.
Getting to see the guy, I forget the character he played in the first movie, but he played Kovac in the Altered Carbon series, the first season.
Oh yeah.
He was like the major or whatever, the guy that was the leader.
Oh, Flag.
Talk about Flag. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It was good to see him back in that role because I kind of like the actor.
And Captain Boomerang.
Got to see Captain Boomerang was on there too.
So yeah, are they naming it anything? Are they just calling it Suicide Squad again?
I think they're just calling it Suicide Squad.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it'll be fun, but again, it'll be unnecessarily crass. I think mark my words, we'll be comparing it to what it should have been or could have been had they taken certain things out.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be fun. I think the action part will be fun.
Yeah.
And we're finally getting our Black Widow movie.
Yes, July 9th.
That was a stupid thing for them to go, we'll just wait on this. We're going to sit on this. Pandemic's still going. I don't care. We're going to sit on it. Okay, well, do it as soon as everybody made the decision to release things in the theater and on TV, do it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, it's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing, and this is something a lot of people don't quite understand. Yeah, it's great in theory to just release the movie in theaters and on the streaming service. People don't get paid if it's on streaming. A lot of your actors won't actually make their money until it's in theaters.
Yeah.
And that's how you get actors to leave Hollywood.
Sure.
So I don't agree with that mentality. I mean, I think the pandemic should have forced people to reevaluate how certain people are paid.
Yes.
I like the fact that some services are trying to, like with the way HBO Max is doing it, I like that it's no additional fee. I do not appreciate that Disney, as soon as they did it, certain films, okay, fine, we'll release it in theaters, but we're also releasing it on our platform at a premium of $30.
$30. Like, greedy SOBs.
Not a fan of that.
Nope.
Not a fan of that.
Nope. I agree.
Now, if it was, you charge me $30 to watch it on the streaming service, and then once the physical format is produced and whatnot, I get the ultimate edition or whatever. Okay, that I could understand. That I could forgive. It's putting a lot of faith in my enjoyment of said product, but to me, that's an investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a true sign of greed.
I love that I'm part of the WB, the Warner Brothers. What do you call it? Basically Nelson ratings, but they come to me to ask questions about themselves and other companies, and great, because I'll tell you exactly.
Yeah. With Black Widow, I'm glad it's finally getting released. God willing, I'll be vaccinated by then, because I told Jess, I said, I want to see Black Widow in theater. Matter of fact, I know it's not going to, because it's a Marvel film and it would take an awful hell of a lot for them to finally disappoint me.
Right. Isn't that wonderful?
But
isn't that great that we can go Marvel?
That amount of faith.
If it's a Marvel thing, yeah. I'm not worried.
I have no clue about the Eternals. I have no clue about, I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings or whatever.
Dragon of Goodness. I don't know.
No clue about those two, but you know what? I'm going to go watch them.
Here's my money. I'll gladly hand it to you.
Because I know I will be introduced to something I will enjoy or become obsessed with.
Hey, nobody cared about Guardians of the Galaxy. Now it's a household name.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the funny thing. Like, realistically, if you sit back, let's go back 30 years.
All right, 30.
No, 30 years. 30 years ago, if you walked into a comic book shop and just said, give me your favorite Marvel character in the 90s, guaranteed. Actually, no, let's make us all feel older. Go back 40 years. In the 80s, walk into a comic book shop and say, tell me your favorite Marvel character. Guaranteed, you would be getting predominantly characters associated with the X-Men and their deviations and whatnot. You'll probably be getting still some Captain Americas, Iron Mans.
I wouldn't go that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say that. Because yes, the characters have been around, but they were not popular. Like Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Spider-Man was always going to be big, and X-Men.
Yeah. For out of 10 characters, if you got 10 people to tell you their favorite character, out of 10 people, you'd probably get one, maybe two, that would say somebody other than an X-Men or mutant character.
Or Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man's a safety.
Spider-Man's he falls into technically a mutant through.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm nitpicking
semantics, but anyway.
Yeah.
but yeah, and then in the late 80s, early 90s, somebody high mucky muck at Marvel decided, yeah, we're never going to make a movie about the X-Men. We're never going to make a movie about Spider-Man. Sell that off. 90s roll around. Fox says, you know what? Let's do a Fantastic Four movie. Let's do X-Men movies. Sony's like, you know what? I like the cut of your jib. Let's do a Spider-Man movie.
No, before that it was Blade. Blade was the big...
and Blade. Yep, and Blade. And I loved Blade. I loved the Blade movies.
I haven't seen the third one.
Yeah, the third one, the first one is my favorite movie out of all three Blade movies. The second one's pretty good. That one,
I've heard things.
That one was a little hard for me to digest because of the whole split thing there. That always freaked me out.
I didn't see that, but I do know that they they had such a hard time with Snipes that they ended up editing around him, so it doesn't flow like it should.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but yeah, so fast forward to early 2000s, Marvel has a film division, finally, and they're like, okay, shit, we gotta jump on this. Who do we got in our catalog yet? You got Iron Man, you got Captain America, these characters that are now household names, but back then they're like basically B-list superheroes, and they're like, how do we make this work? And they made it work beautifully, because you're right. Blade was the first of them getting it done right, because Marvel used to shell out all their characters to other companies, but not hold them accountable to keeping true to the character.
Which is why you got Dolph Lundgren doing a Punisher movie with no skull on his chest. He would leave a knife with a skull in it. And like, what are you doing? That has nothing to do with the character.
Yeah.
Fine movie, but not the Punisher like we deserved. So
Yeah.
then it wasn't.
Could it have worked as a Punisher before he was Punisher? Maybe.
But then you got, like you said, Fox then went, okay, that went well. Let's do X-Men. Wow, that went well. Let's do Spider-Man. Wow. And then the Marvel people go, can we do our own movies? We could. All right. And then no, they already had their game plan. They knew it was going to at least Avengers. So from Iron Man on, they went, look, nobody is expecting us to do well with Iron Man. But we know how good he can be. Let's do that. And then you got the people, what's his name who was the director? Happy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, John Favreau.
Yeah, he's our age. Guess what?
Yeah.
He knows enough
and he knows the source material.
And he goes, I'm taking charge of this, and made it great. So overnight, Marvel, as long as they keep the way they've been going, everything they touch movie or TV wise, you'll notice.
Yeah, Wanda Vision was phenomenal.
Okay, we didn't talk about the end of that. What did you think? Because last time we talked, you were 2 episodes away, I think.
I think we were still 2 episodes away, yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know there were some people that were, there's the whole mythness about, well, where's our Luke Skywalker caliber cameo? And it's like, guys, you're going to just have to let that go.
Enjoy the show.
Yeah, and for the most part, everybody does. They were just miffed about something being overhyped or whatever.
The build-up, Scott Tipton wrote, Marvel is sorry for the promises that you made to yourself that were never promised to you. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because it was all in their own mind. Nobody promised them crap. So they're like, wait a minute. I thought Magneto was going to show up. Nobody said that.
Nope.
That was all in your head.
Nope. I do like that they've shown, one, they basically said the Vision is still around in some form.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, that was great.
And I loved that. I loved how they did that, because you've got Heck's version of Vision, who's essentially kind of like a memory imprint of him.
Yep.
And then you've got the physical body, and they're having that conversation about the ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
I love that. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
But I like how they showed a superhero going through the process of grief.
Yeah.
I loved it. And one of the things that I thought was brilliantly done was that SOB from Sword tried to push the story that she stole Vision's body by cleverly missing footage in the whole, her breaking into the Sword facility. But then when we got the visual history of it, we saw the footage, but we saw it in its true form, where she was just like, nope, I'm good. And she opens the doors. You see her walk through. You see her being confronted with watching what they were doing with Vision's body. And then you see her break the window.
Yep.
It's like, that was brilliantly done to show how much of an a-hole that Haywood character really was.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. I like the fact that they're showing her really embracing her chaos magic ability. And, you see her sitting there in that cabin, drinking the coffee or tea or whatever. And then the ethereal version of herself sitting there doing the whole not Captain Marvel. Wow. Doctor Strange thing where she's
reading,
doing her thing, And I love that they're showing that we very well may still see Wiccan and Speed, I think are the characters' names, Tommy and Billy.
Right.
I love that. I thought that was really well done. It'll be fun to see if we're going to see. Well, I know we're going to probably see Monica Rambeau again. I like that actress just because they did a phenomenal job at casting an actress as a character, as an older version of a character that we've already, I think I said this in our previous episode. There's just this, I don't want to say cute face, but this just like expression or whatever she had made. And it was like, oh my God, that is, did they time travel and go into this kid as an adult, beautiful casting. I loved seeing Jimmy Woo. I loved seeing Darcy. I'm curious to see if, because we know Monica ended up having some kind of enhanced abilities.
Well, you know who she is. The superhero.
Phantom or Spectrum or
she's gone through a couple names. As a matter of fact, one of them in the 80s, and I hated it. She used to go by Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
and then,
which I think giving her own title works, or if she ends up taking on the mantle of Captain Marvel for whatever reason, that works.
No, they've already diverged and gave her like 3 different names throughout the years. So now,
so I mean,
she's on her own.
Yeah, she's got some play to do. I'm curious to see if they're going to have Darcy had developed anything latent, if we're ever going to see her character again. Right. I liked seeing her again. That was fun.
I loved the white Vision. He looks so cool. Even when they zoom in on his eyes, I'm like, oh, I like you a lot. And I love that they did, because I always, ever since I first saw it, back before I was even really into comics, I would occasionally see an Avengers, and they would have him white. And I'm like, I love that because it's very ghostly and it's very, it's very cool. It's
almost otherworldly, like
striking when visually when you look at it, you think, well, it's just white, but no, the way that they would draw him, I'm like,
Well, yeah, and the benefit of on film, like when they zoomed in, when you see Vision from a distance, it just looks like a dude that's
not painted.
Green, But then when you zoom in, you see like the texture of his costume is still there.
Yep.
Like the color has literally been drained. I thought that was really cool.
I loved Wanda's outfit at the end. I'm like, that's perfect. I
thought that was a beautiful evolution. It pays the homage to what's come before, but even in line with what the last time I saw her in comics, it's very similar to that very, I don't want to say fashionable look, but that very stylized
gypsy look. She kind of, they at one point in the 90s they made sure that she looked like a gypsy, like her outfit with the big earrings and whatever.
You're like, they paid more homage to her Romani heritage in the comics, at least.
So
it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, it's going to go at least to Doctor Strange. I wonder if she's going to be the villain.
I honestly don't think she's going to be. I think we're going to see her maybe in like a support role, because of the things that she's done, experimenting with, you know, the hex magic or chaos magic, however you want to call it.
I love that they explain that too. They're like hex. It's because they're all hex. And they're like, all right, we're gonna call it her hex magic. I'm like, very good.
It's a logical explanation as to why they call it that.
Because they never did. I don't think they ever did in the comics. They just like that's what
they may have, but it was probably in like one issue that nobody ever reads
Right.
anymore. You know, but which ironically, I'm working on one of those bottles too. It's not going to be hexagonal though. But the whole thing is just it. I love what they're doing with these Disney Plus series. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I was just going to move on to that.
Episodes.
Yeah, there's been 2 episodes.
Yep, 2 episodes. I will say, though I enjoy Wyatt Russell as the character, when they first introduced him as
I know what you're saying.
Captain America, U.S. agent is what I've been calling him.
Sure, me too.
Let's be honest, that's who he really is.
Right.
I wanted to punch him in the face when he turns around, he's just got that I'm like, dude, you've got a punchable face, and it's like, "Ugh."
Everybody's making fun of it. They say he looks like the guy from Up with that.
Yeah, Up. I've heard him being described as when you order Captain America off Wish.
Yep.
But I will say the portrayal of the character has been phenomenal. Like Jess and I were talking on the way home from CVS earlier. You've got 3 characters that are trying to be like Steve Rogers. You've got John Walker, who is trying to be Steve Rogers, Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Sam and Bucky, who are not trying to be Steve Rogers, Captain America, but they're coming to terms with being the best Captain America version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we know they're gonna end up both technically in possession of the shield, because at one point in one of the trailers, you see Sam throwing the shield around, and then Bucky catches it, and then they're playing catch with it, kind of, you know. And that's going to happen, but it's you can start to see the realization that Walker's going to snap, something's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
and either he's going to. I don't think this is going to happen, but he's either going to give it to Sam and Bucky,
or they're taking it,
or there's going to be a confrontation. And I told Jess, I said, I would love to see this be the confrontation. And I know it's already been filmed, so I doubt it's going to, I doubt this is going to have any influence, but I could see it where you've got Sam, Bucky, and John, and that other guy, Battlestar or whatever his name is. And, they're having a confrontation, and then you just see Bucky just silently walk over in that borderline. You think he's going to snap and go back to,
Winter
Soldier, and you just see him walk up, put his regular hand on the shield, and just snatch it right out of Walker's hands, and walk over and just shove it into Sam's chest. Let's go, and just leave.
I know,
because it'd be more it'd be more intimidating seeing that man do that than walk over with the mechanical arm and just ding yank. To show that level of control and just sheer determination. But anyway, I like that they showed the little nuances, not little nuances, but the things that people deal with on a daily basis that you and I would never even think that we'd have to deal with. Like the scene at the bank where Sam's trying to help his sister get a loan, and this dude's more obsessed with the fact that this guy looks familiar. And then when it's realized that, oh, he's the Falcon, and then that whole little diatribe, and his sister's just like, yeah, why don't we talk about the person sitting right here? And I'm like, thank you, because that was even bugging me. It's like, dude, he's there to help her.
Yep.
You're there to work with her, not obsess about this dude.
And they still didn't get the loan. And
they still didn't get that. And that really, that just pissed me off. But I like that Sam still has that level of optimism.
Yeah.
I like that they had the nice throwback to Winter Soldier, where you got Sam and Cap running around doing the, on your left, and they have that moment where they're doing the cool down, and I forget who initiated the conversation, but Sam goes, it's like sleeping on a cloud. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to end up falling on the floor. Sleeping in a bed compared to sleeping on the ground like they had for God knows how long when they were active duty. I like that they paid homage to that in the first episode with Bucky having that nightmare or that memory, and then him waking up and he's laying there on the floor. Mm-hmm. I like that little nod, and I pointed out to somebody, and they're like, "Oh crap! I didn't even realize that. I just figured he didn't have a bed yet or whatever." You know, it was that moment that it showed they're paying attention even to, I don't want to say throwaway lines, but they're paying attention to the innocuous dialogue that happened, you know, years ago. It'll be interesting to see what transpires after this week, since they've shown that Zemo is still about.
Love it.
And the fact that they're showing that in some capacity, some variation of the super soldier serum has gotten out.
Well, Isaiah, you know who he was.
Yep, he was the Captain America that served during the Korean War.
Well, he was basically in the early 2000s,
50s or
maybe?
60s.
They did a mini series where in the comic he was the one that they tested the super soldier serum on.
Yeah.
And then once it worked, they went, okay, and they decommissioned him. He's like, well, whoa, why? Because you're black. And that was the end of it. You're like, whoa, okay. That's potent.
Yeah, and I like that it was done in such a way that it showed very real what, you know, would happen. I mean, let's be honest. For the time, that probably would have happened had super soldiers been real.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they showed, even however many freaking years removed, that serum is still strong in that guy's body, because he took a freaking, it looked like it was an oversized Altoids can and just slapped it into the wall, and he embedded that sucker in that wall.
I wanted his grandson or whoever the punk was that was in the house, I wanted him smacked around a little. You guys ought to get out of here. Get, like, kid, shut your mouth. You're talking to people that are older than you, besides the fact that they're superheroes.
Yeah, but
whether you know that or
probably didn't even know.
Doesn't matter. It's a human being. Like the attitude of this little puke.
Keep in mind, though, you're putting your personal experiences over fictional characters, and there was a no trespassing sign on the fence.
Sure, but they were polite and they knocked on his door. I'm saying his reaction was arrogant and obnoxious. I don't like that.
And you don't need to like it.
That's what I'm saying.
Also going off of your experiences, not someone else.
No, I'm going off what is right and what is wrong. Someone comes to my door. I don't care who. Fill in the blank, whatever you want. It's one thing to say, no, thank you. No, he's not interested. That's fine. If I say above that with arrogance and attitude, it's too, here's where you need to be. You can go this way, but if you go too much obnoxious, whether they need to be there or not, it's too far. And that's what I'm saying. People who are hostile over the need to be, which is why I think this character was, which is why it bothered me. They weren't pushy. They knocked, and he was like, he was looking to punch somebody. He was too hostile. That's my point. If they pushed it,
as I said, though, it's you're going from your perspective in life, not a person of color's life experience.
Okay, give me an example where that's okay.
Okay, you're a person of color. You've been persecuted your entire life.
No,
You're
saying color. Skip the color issue, because if
I can't.
Whatever color I am isn't. I don't get to be ignorant.
I'm not saying he was ignorant.
This character.
We're talking about a young man who lives in the slums, because if you look at the surrounding area where they were, it would be classified as slums.
Sure.
So I hate to say it, statistically, they would be more likely a person of color than a white child. So that factored in. 5 seconds after they leave the house, who shows up?
Sure.
The cops.
Without a doubt.
So you're talking about a character having a life experience of being accosted by people probably their entire life, more than likely because they live with their grandfather, who admittedly is a felon. So if you're, how old was the kid? Probably teens?
At least 20. We'll say latest he's 20. So yeah, we'll say teens.
I don't know if he was that old, but we'll split the
Whatever.
difference.
Doesn't matter. Sure.
We'll say he's 18. So you have a child, because 18-year-old's still a child, even though legally adulthood, whatever. But you have someone who's 18 years old, who's been exposed to this life their entire time on this earth. You got two random dudes show up at your house, ignoring signs that say no trespassing. I'm sorry, but to me, it makes sense that they're going to be hostile to anyone that comes to their door.
See, and I'm saying it should have built. If they stay, if they are obnoxious to him, if they are rude, if they're saying we're coming in anyway, yes, without a doubt. I'm saying whatever your backstory is, every day is a brand new day. People come to your door and knock. You don't start off at 100. That's what I'm saying. But no matter what color you are, no matter what your history is,
we will just have to.
Every day is a new. So if someone is nasty to you, you're okay with that. I'm just trying to understand.
No, but I would also be mindful of the situation, because
absolutely,
if I recall correctly, Sam was more inclined to look, let's just get out of here, whereas Bucky wasn't.
Sure, because Bucky knew him. Bucky knew if the moment
Bucky was aware of the Isaiah character.
And also that Isaiah, if he knew it was Bucky, which is what worked, go tell him it's the guy from such and such. That's why. So, you know, I don't think he's looking at him as a guy of color. I think he's looking at, you're a guy who I know. Just tell your grandfather that it's the guy from whatever bar.
Wherever, yeah.
You know, that was my only point. Like if it built to that and someone's hassling them, by all means, you could puff up your chest and be ready for the fight, I guess is the equivalent. My thing was he didn't let it build. He was already at them, coming at them. But then they go, like you said, then they leave and there's the cops. Yeah. I love that they did that. I love that it was like, no, you're black, so we're hassling you. Oh, wait, you're the Falcon. Oh, then it's okay. Whoa.
Yeah, they're showing that absurdity that, you know, is allowed to persist. And then, you know, it's oh, wait a minute. Yeah, wait, no, Barnes. Yeah, we got a warrant for you because you skipped out on your.
I love that. That was a nice twist. I think I told you that they've been doing. It hasn't felt heavy-handed. They've been doing it well on the TV shows of
the social commentary,
Chicago PD and Prodigal Son.
Yeah.
And what's great is it's the same type of situation, but you're watching two different characters handled two different ways. And I thought,
oh yeah,
good.
I love it. And I love how I can't speak for the Chicago series, but I loved how they handled it on Prodigal Son, essentially putting the guy on notice, saying, no, I've got my job to do. I'm not going to let you dictate me, you know? Yeah. And I'm sure they're going to end up coming back to that at some point, because
I think they should. Where on Chicago PD, and this is what I'm saying, I think it ties into what we're just saying about the grandson. The guy on Chicago PD handled it more like the grandson on Falcon and Winter Soldier, where he was already beating his chest ready for a fight, where, not saying he was wrong to be upset, the guy on Prodigal Son was just as upset, but handled it, I think, a little better, you know, because he didn't go, come at me. Like, no, be smart. And because at first the guy on Prodigal Son, he's scared. They allow him. He is not the cliche, I have to be a tough guy now.
Oh yeah. I like that they showed, I like how they showed that. And then the following episode, you know, he's on the radio trying to get backup, and he's still dealing. I don't know if he was dealing with the same cop, but he was still dealing with that mentality.
I thought that was great because it built, and he was scared, and he didn't know what he was going to do. And then in the end, he goes, all right, I'm not going to press charges, but I'm also going to point out that you're a scumbag for the crap that you're putting me through. You and I both know what you're doing. Like you said, hopefully they'll go back to that. Whereas with Prodigal or Chicago PD, it's just as entertaining. But I'm like, ooh, man, your boss is telling you, I agree with what you're saying, but you're not saying it right. And even though you're right, it's going to get you killed. And we'll see what happens, because it looks like it's a dead issue for the moment. But I don't think that's a dead issue. I think that's coming around again.
Oh yeah.
Pick your moments.
Yeah, I think if the writing team is smart, they'll let it simmer for a while, but then have it. Might be a mid-season. Well, this year's seasons are a little out of whack anyway, but it might be what's a mid-season hanger, or maybe even a season finale hanger. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm curious to see, because right now the way they're doing it, it's looking like they're trying to have the Flag Smashers and Zemo potentially being the big bad of the season or the series. I think that's kind of a red herring from what they've been presenting. I think we're going to see John Walker crack.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, I completely have faith.
I'm amused at how much he looks like his freaking father. It's wild.
I know. Well, it's funny too, because everybody's going, well, now that you know who his father is, it makes sense. Oh, okay. Yeah, it does look just like him.
And you can really see it. It's good.
I'm sad it's only 6 episodes, but that doesn't mean we don't get a season 2. So
yeah,
I would rather have a solid 6 than a drawn out bunch of episodes. It's kind of aimless.
Yeah, like with this one, we were watching it and we get to the end and Jess is like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah, weird. And then we clicked on to see what the time was for the time left for the credits. And we're like, oh, wow, that was actually like a 42 or 43 minute episode. It just was very well paced throughout the entire thing. But yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier is definitely one of those series that this could be an ongoing series if they wanted to do so. Wanda Vision, that worked for a limited run story.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now that doesn't mean we couldn't get another Wanda-esque series down the line. Who knows? I'm curious to see what they end up doing with Loki. The What If series that's going to just be a fun
I can't
one-off stories, and that's going to be one I think they could easily keep going
forever.
I like that we got to see James Rhodey.
Wasn't that nice? I love that type of crap. By the way, did you recognize who Falcon was fighting in the beginning of the first episode?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I did. I thought that was a nice callback to the only other person who went toe-to-toe and survived with Cap.
Yeah. That's great.
Quite literally, because he was the one that liked doing the kicks and stuff.
He's called the Leaper.
Yeah, the Leaper, yep. And I like the fact that, from what I understand, his character is like some D-list character that, we need somebody that we can just have the character beat up on. Well, what about the Leaper?
Yeah. That's great, though. He's not dead, so keep bringing him back.
Yeah, and I think, from what I understand, Torres, I think his name is, he ends up actually, after Falcon takes on the mantle of Captain America, I think he takes on the mantle of the Falcon, from what I've heard. So that's nice, laying like the proverbial groundwork for that down the line. I'm really enjoying it. I like how they're showing Bucky coming to terms, still trying to process everything that he was forced to do. I really just love the way that series is working. It's very well done. Very, almost feels like mini films in its own right.
Yeah. I hope we get to see Isaiah again. I don't think he's done. I don't think that was just a one and done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if he just does a little fight.
And from what I understand, his grandson is part of the Young Avengers as the Patriot or something like that.
That's right.
So that'll be interesting.
Well,
if
wouldn't
they
it be-
are actually going to be working on giving us Young Avengers.
Wouldn't it be great if they made the mouthy kid at the door Patriot?
Yeah, and they just, they go in and they show him having that troubled youth or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, okay, no, he's like Bucky, he's got his own proverbial shit to work through.
Right.
I think that would be brilliant. I think that would be absolutely brilliant because they got Wiccan, Speed. They've got, I don't remember what Cassie's name was, Stature or something like that. Ant-Man's daughter. They've got the Patriot. Wasn't there a fifth member? I can't remember, and I'm
Hulkling.
Hulkling. There you go. So yeah, I mean, if they are actually going to be going that route, they could easily.
Oh, that could be so good. And again, there's no rush. There's no, whatever.
And realistically, if they decide they don't want to necessarily do a film, they could do what they've been doing on Disney Plus. Just do like little mini seasons with the characters.
Right.
If they don't want to devote like the film, which why not? I mean, but yeah, I'm excited to see Disney's doing amazing with their stuff.
Thank
the Marvel stuff is just insane. We're gonna get a series centered around Rhodey and dealing with people doing taking Iron Man armor liberties. We're gonna get Ironheart, which is probably going to be like an offshoot of that, I would think.
Well, what about, did you see the footage of what's his name practicing to be Moon Knight?
Yes. I'm excited for that.
Did you see the fighting?
I'm excited for that because I know next to nothing about Moon Knight, so that's going to be fun. I love the fact that we're going to be getting a She-Hulk series with the actress that we all thought it was going to end up being, but that's just a rumor. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, we might get to see Daredevil in there.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, we're going to get Mark Ruffalo doing a cameo there.
Yep.
I would love that. I'm sure he would love it because it's Mark Ruffalo. How about the actual title for the next Spider-Man movie?
No Way Home?
Yeah. I'm curious what that's going to actually be. Is he going to be stuck somewhere where he can't get home? I know a lot of people have been saying, it's going to be a live action Spider-Verse. I don't know. I think that's a lot of wishful speculating. I think we're going to see Spider-Man hit with something where his world goes through a change. Where, yes, he'll be able to go home, but it's not necessarily going to be the same. His world is going to change, hopefully for the better.
Yeah, I'm dying for the other Spider-Man, and more importantly for me, Daredevil. Get Daredevil.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm hoping, like Jess and I were talking about this. Now that we're starting to get to the dates that we can no longer say when the contract ends for the Netflix characters.
Oh, it's already over. That's
not all of them. They're starting.
No, I mean Daredevil.
Daredevil. Yeah, Daredevil, and I think there's another one that the time has elapsed. But yeah, like Daredevil, I want to see Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Punisher. I want to see them integrated.
Yeah.
Keep the freaking actors. Keep them in those roles.
Oh yeah, people.
Now, if for whatever reason the actor doesn't want to be in the role, fine. Okay, I can understand that. I'm not going to necessarily like it because they all did phenomenal. Even Finn Jones ended up doing really well in the character. Eventually, they should have just given him the time to get it right from the beginning, but they wanted to get to the
writing.
Defenders.
I don't think that was necessarily his fault.
Well, it's because they wanted to get to the Defenders.
Right.
They they rushed the writing instead of taking their time.
And he was just like an impatient child even in Defenders. Like, I'm going to fight everybody all the time. Like, calm down. We're just having a conversation, dude. You don't have to like it, but
like seeing him in the Luke Cage series in those 2 episodes, or I think it was 2 episodes, that was phenomenal because that felt okay. This is Iron Fist. This is the character we knew he could be. But yeah, like I want to see Charlie Cox back as Daredevil. I want to see Kristen Ritter back as Jessica Jones. I want to see Mike Coulter back as Luke Cage. I want to see them all back.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be just the movies. Like, let's integrate like you were supposed to right from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, has S.H.I.E.L.D. taught you nothing? You had opportunities there that you dropped the ball on.
Yeah, well, and that boils down to, from what I understand, I want to say it was Rupert Murdoch was the guy that was in charge of the TV division. He didn't like something. There was he was butting heads with Kevin Feige and just like being an a-hole because ego,
I hate that garbage.
Well, I mean, it's Rupert Murdoch, the same guy that canceled Firefly. So, I mean, that says a lot about
that. Says everything. Yeah. Did I tell you I finally got my Indiana Jones Funko?
No, you didn't.
Okay. So for Christmas, for those who don't know, if you wanted to get an Indiana Jones Funko for years, you had to be at Disneyland or Disney World on the day that they opened the door and be one of the few people that could steal them from a shelf. If you wanted them off eBay or anywhere, they were hundreds of dollars. It was stupid.
Yep.
For a freaking $12 Funko, people were stupid. So I was like, kiss my rear end. You would think they would eventually go, you know what, let's start releasing variants and different versions.
Yeah.
Well, they've done 2 so far. They did from Raiders and then from Temple of Doom. So Cindy ordered me Raiders.
Okay.
However, what she got is Temple of Doom.
Huh. Not bad, though.
Not complaining. It's great detail. He's got the 5 o'clock shadow. His head's a little tilted. I don't know if that's the way they made him, but he's like this. So he has the sword and the Shankara stones in his other hand, or at least one of them. Well,
is that one of the bobblehead type, or is that just the regular head?
Just the regular.
It might just be the way they have it sculpted to have that like.
I agree. And he's all scarred up, and he's got missing the sleeve. It's Temple of Doom. So I put him there, just to fill in the space, because she's like, "Yeah, do you like it?" I said, "Yeah, I love it." She goes, "That's from the first movie?" I said, "No, it's from the second one." She goes, "I ordered you the first one." So I waited a couple weeks. I went, you know what? I found one here that's for like $8. It's
not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Think, like you said, I think they sell for like $10-12
at least, if you're lucky. But again, then they'll jump up to hundreds of dollars. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to order.
I'm experiencing that myself with something else. So.
Right. I'm going to order this first one. Well, when she goes, yeah, they were supposed to send me the first one. Do you want me to send it back? I'm like, no. I'll just eventually get the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So I find the site or the eBay guy. He's like, they're like, do you have this one? We have this one. In the direct, how you can order or buy something through eBay and then leave a little message. I said, this number, make sure it's this number. Because imagine if it was the same guy she got hers from and the guy sends a set. Yeah. So then I'm waiting. And I told you about the iPad situation where I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for just the freaking plastic cover. Well, whoever is in charge of that never updated it. I ended up getting it the day after we talked. So I got that plastic cover, but eBay still says it's in China somewhere.
Oh, wow. So it didn't get scanned at all.
At all. But I finally got it, so huzzah. But I'm waiting. This guy didn't even ship the Indiana Jones Funko. I'm like, wow. I'm thinking, what is the rule here? What is my practical whatever?
Usually, like the couple times I've ordered stuff off of eBay, I will wait. Like if I don't get any kind of shipping notification after 7 days, not 7 business days, 7 days. Like if I were to order something off of eBay today, and I don't get a shipping notification by this time next week, I email and contact the seller.
Which is what I did. I waited. I made sure it was at least a week, maybe 2.
Yeah. Like I could understand like if like I actually had ordered something from somebody, and like 3 days later they messaged me back and said, hey, or they messaged me independently and said, hey, I wanted to let you know I got your payment. I will be sending this out. I'm currently waiting on something to arrive so that said item does not get damaged in shipping.
Sure.
Okay, cool. No problem. Thank you for the update. I appreciate it.
Well, this guy never did. So I end up sending a note. Hey there, just checking when it's going to be shipped. I get back in bold letters and an exclamation point. I'll ship it as soon as I can. All right.
Well, that's aggressive.
You get one. Everybody gets one. I'm going to wait and see what happens. I wait a few more days, a few more weeks. Nothing. So then I write back, how about now? I'm still waiting. And again, I'm trying to think, well, you know, people are busy, blah, 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 blah. But now it's been a month and you never even shipped it. So then he ships it. And now you're supposed to be able to track the darn thing. And it's stalled at wherever the heck it was in China, because I guess this guy was from China. And I thought, you know,
or he's drop shipping it from China.
Yeah. Well, part of me is like, for the price, I don't want to be a pest. However, no, you know what? After a certain amount of time I spent money on this, I think I deserve to have some answers.
Yeah.
Well, eventually, even though it says something completely different on the tracking where it hasn't moved from China, it showed up at my door. Was not in the box. It was loose, but the box was folded up underneath it.
Wow.
And I'm sorry. No, that was, what was that? That was the first one when I got it for Christmas. This one didn't even have a box. It was just loose. I'm like,
wow.
You didn't even send me the box for it.
Now, it would be different if in the description it said loose.
Sure. But they actually show in the picture, here it is in the box.
Yeah.
Now,
so at that point, there's a level of expectation.
If I were a stickler and wanted to really get into it, I can go back and go, hey, jerk face, you sent this to me not the way you described it, blah, 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 blah. But I thought,
yeah,
you know, for $8 or whatever, $8 to $13.
Yeah.
I have my.
And you would have taken it out of the box anyway.
I was taking it out of the box. It's up in my room with my other Funkos.
Yeah.
And I got the extra one to put there. So, you know, yeah, I'll let it go. But I just thought, what a jerk.
Yeah.
Be nice. And then I don't even know if it's still, it may not even be marked. Let me check while we're looking. Purchased. I'm going to let you know if it still says that it's out.
Shipping.
Free shipping, delivered. Okay, now they finally changed it to
delivered. It does actually mark as delivered. Okay, well, that's good.
The screensaver or the screen protector, though, is still marked as shipped.
What
idiot is not?
Someone's not scanning stuff at these shipping companies. That's what it is. Somebody didn't scan it. They didn't go boop, boop, you know.
Uh-huh. Oh, and when I did get the I ordered the pen. Did I tell you about the pen?
Mm-hmm.
I ordered it and then I wasn't getting it. It was right from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the pen holder. I ended up buying like for the iPen holder to put around the case of the iPad just to keep it all together. Not much, but I wasn't getting it. Amazon gives it to you typically the next day. It's amazing.
Yeah, 2 days later, if at the worst case, you know, usually if it's actually from Amazon directly. Yeah.
Days go by. I get a notification delivered. I'm like, where? I'm looking at it. It was windy that day. I'm like, to blow off the porch. Where is it? And it says it was put in your mailbox. So I'm like, okay. Not my mailbox. Do I have a porch pirate? Or is this guy full of crap? So I end up calling Amazon and I get the automated thing. If you think your item is late, please give it a day. Sometimes they mark it before it gets.
Yeah.
So, okay. The next day, it's still not there. I catch the mailman. I explained to him my woes. He goes, really? That was supposed to be here on Monday? Oh, the guy who trained me, who's been doing this job for 30 years, he's usually pretty good about that. I'll check with him. Sure enough, an hour later, I get at my door and I answer it. And he goes, here it is. I'm like, thank you. Where was it? He said he put it in the mailbox. He goes, no, he put it between the doors that we don't use.
Gotcha.
Well, okay. I'm like, well, at least it was there. At least I don't.
At least it was on the property, just not where you would have gone to look for it. Yeah.
And on that door, it says, we use the other door. Do not use this door. Well,
yeah. Well, you've been to my place. We've got the side port, or we've got the carport. We got the front, entryway area. I have had all kinds of manner of absurdity. Oh, it was delivered to your front, or it was delivered to your front porch, side door. Okay, side door, front porch, two totally different areas. I had one saying, "Oh yeah, it was put in your mailbox." Went out to the mailbox, not there. Walked back to the front or side door, and just happened to see behind the grid wall that I have leaning outside a package tucked between the grid and the brick wall. I'm like, not my mailbox, but at least it's here. It's just like, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I'm telling you. So 100 episodes for us.
Doesn't feel like it.
No, it does not. Isn't that funny? That's why I want to make sure that we got to do you and me for the 100th.
Yeah, well, I think part of it also is, one, it's 100 episodes for the podcast, but for you and I think, I want to say I came in around the 40s, the 50s.
Really? That late?
Well, I don't even remember.
I had you on early on as a guest. I remember that.
Yeah, but then again, maybe it was earlier than that. I don't know, because I know I ended up helping getting us situated to get us on iTunes properly and everything. But yeah, it doesn't feel like 100 episodes. But then if you go back and look at our catalog, it's definitely over 100. Well, it's over 100 technically because we've dropped some trailers and bonus episodes and whatnot on this episode.
Sure. Yeah, on the channel.
So, or on this series thing. So
thing.
RSS feed, iTunes, whatever. Yeah. People, if they're listening to us babble, they know what it is. We've bantered enough about that. But anyway, yeah, it's just wild. Like Jess and Ashley on their podcast, they've done now granted they drop an episode every week.
Right.
They've gotten upwards of 60, if not more. Which ironically, we were talking about Prodigal Son. Yesterday's episode for Fiction Friday
was a
Prodigal Son episode, which that was fun. I came up with the title for that episode. I was quite proud.
What's it called?
Shafted and Still Solves a Crime.
Oh, that particular episode. Okay.
Yep.
We talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's fun. Like they were telling me that one of the things they want to do is do more international episodes where they talk about crime around the world, which one of the episodes that I still think is hilarious is a tiger kidnapping and it's not what you think. And it was talking about a crime in Ireland that involved robbing a bank and someone's family member being held hostage or whatever. It was wild. And it was just fun to hear something that takes place over in another country. So every month they've been trying to at least do one story that involves an international crime, but yeah, I'm so freaking proud of the two of them for doing that, keeping with it and coming up with just clever and quirky titles for their episodes. Like it gets my goat a little bit, and I know they do it on purpose just to mess with me. For me, something about having a short title for episodes to me makes sense. It's quick, short, and to the point. Nope. They go with the psych approach, and we'll just come up with the most absurd, doesn't matter how long the episode title is. That's what they do. And I'm like, I love you and I hate you. But no, it's cool to see that they're doing this. And it's actually gotten Ashley into doing a couple podcasts with other people. So very much like you, she's branched out and does like co-hosts or spot co-hosts or whatever. I've actually had somebody, which I think they want to talk to me about doing a podcast interview sometime soon on a friend of mine's. They do a podcast. I'm not entirely certain as to what it's on or what even it's called. They were talking to me the one night during D&D during some downtime. I'm like, yeah, I'd be fine for that, because they heard that I edit the podcast for Jess and Ashley. I'm into cosplay. I do the D&D thing Mondays, all the different hobbies and things that I do. I run my own business, and it's just like they wanted to interview me to get my thoughts on things. I'm like, okay, sure. Just let me know when. I'll make myself available, But yeah, it's just wild.
I know. I'm very
it's good to see. Oh yeah, I'm grateful for all of it. I mean,
well, I was going to say,
it gives us the ability to be creative and share the things that we love.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for all the wonderful people that we've had on as guests. Jen Chapin was our first, and that was back when our audio wasn't what it is now, and back before Zoom and you got the interruptions of that, the whole thing.
Yep.
And
I remember when we were on Skype, it would my end would just randomly like, nope, you're done.
Yeah.
Boop, you're off. And I'm like, are you freaking like, and I know it would frustrate you because you'd have to splice all these like segments together. And it's like,
now I can just slap this together, put a beginning, an end on it, and there we go.
Yeah. And because we're doing it through Zoom, you have the ability to go back and do what you liked doing, which was also having it on iTunes, or not iTunes, on YouTube. Just throw in photo streams or whatever here and there to.
I don't even do that now. I don't do that.
No?
Okay. I just let this fly because it jumps between you and me. So,
okay. That's new to me. I didn't even realize that. That's cool. But yeah, that's like the one weird nice thing from the pandemic. It's shown us kind of like ways that we can really utilize things that were probably at our disposal way back when, but now they've become kind of like standardized, like everybody uses Zooms for meetings and such like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's helped get people to rediscover things that they've enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like D&D, I remember playing that as a kid, got distanced from it for a while, played Star Wars RPG for a while. That fell to the wayside, got back into this. I know they're doing the Stargate D&D.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to be official. My buddy Tim, who's really into that, he's the one that I was trying to get started with doing it from the original books. And we started and we were all writing up our characters, and his wife goes, "Whoa, I want to be a Tok'ra who's now a member of a SG team, and I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this." And we're like, all right, well, write up your character. And she didn't, and then it stalled, and then the pandemic hit, so we never got to go back there. And now they're coming out with, hopefully, he's excited because he goes, this is the version that's coming out now is much more like a typical D&D that he's used to running. Mm-hmm. He just hopes it doesn't stall, because he said his brother has noticed a lot of times people will start, look, we have this new, campaign that you can donate to, and it gets so far, but never sees the light of day. So we're hoping the Stargate one comes out, because if it does, we'll definitely buy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like I ended up around this time last year, a friend of mine who's the DM for our Monday games, we were killing time waiting for everybody to join in on the Discord, and he's like, "Oh, hey, check out these dice. Nate, you'd probably like them because they're dragon themed, because I play a Dragonborn character."
Right. I remember.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, those are really cool looking." So I'm clicking on it, and it was a Kickstarter through, I don't even remember what the name of the company is, but they're like, yeah, for X amount, they do the different reward tiers and stuff. I'm like, that's really cool. And I'm looking at the different sets that they had available. I'm like, ooh, I like that set. Ooh, I think Jess would probably like that set. And at that point, it dawns on me like, crap. I've picked 3. Okay, do they have a set where you can get 3 different dice sets? They did, so I ponied up the money for that. And because we were early stages of the pandemic, we all had that whole wishful thinking of, oh, this is only going to be a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever.
Right.
That dragged on, and here we are a year later. But the company has been doing a really good job at keeping people up to date with things. They managed to meet almost every single one of their stretch goals. So like different things got upgraded to a better quality. People had more of an option selection wise for the different dice sets. Add-on, a bunch of different add-ons got unlocked. A couple different little knickknacks. Like I think the package I got, or I'm getting like a vinyl sticker. I'm getting a free pin, and I think I'm getting a couple extra dice and stuff like that. So that'll be nice when that gets unveiled. But because of everything going on with like companies being limited on how many people they can have in facilitating, things being made and whatnot. Originally, it was supposed to be released beginning of this year, but because of production limitations and everything, they had steadily been delaying it until June. And then this final update that they just gave us, I think last week, they said, regrettably, we have to inform everybody that we have to postpone it. However, because of everything going on right now, this is going to be the final movement that we're doing, because instead of just bumping it back a month, November, and barring any major disasters, a la factory burning down or Earth exploding or whatever, November 1st, we will have everything received, inventoried, quality checked, and packaged, ready to be shipped out 1st of November. I'm like, okay, I appreciate that you guys have been keeping us up to date. I appreciate that you've been doing everything and anything to grease the squeaky wheel, so to speak, to, make it worth our wait, because they've been throwing, like, hey, we're going to throw in an extra pair of this dice, or we're going to do this, or we're going to, they're trying to appease the customers while also trying to keep people updated with everything. Their transparency has been very good. It's none of this, oh, well, I don't know, well, I guess we'll get it when we get it. They've been very upfront with, look, because this factory is, they're letting people, they're letting the workers return to work. However, they're only letting, I think the factory is working at 60% staff, because they want to make sure that everybody's got the space, so that if someone does have a coughing fit or whatever, even though they may be wearing the mask, it's that safe working conditions and everything, And I mean, yeah, granted, I'm frustrated because I really want the dice, but I appreciate, the forwardness with the information. I appreciate that, I appreciate the factories being safe. I appreciate that they're being upfront with everything. I just hope, the dice gets here and it rolls beautifully, and I get all the nat 20s and high damage rolls and all that stuff, because I'd hate to get it and just roll crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of D&D and things, one of my friends from the D&D group got me one of these, and the viewers will be able to see it, but it is a nice little dice tray that is collapsible. It's got the little snaps in the corners.
I can hear it.
Yep. And I can roll it up and throw it in a bag or whatever.
Nice.
But the interesting thing is, with the D&D group that I play with on Mondays, they know me. Well, one, they know me as my character name, Fuego, fire.
Right.
But they also know me as Indiana. So
Tip it a
she
little
bought
bit.
me.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. So my friend, for my birthday, she bought me a custom dice tray. And it's funny, I've gotten really good at rolling the dice kind of into the corner, so it kind of like bounces, like ricochets. And I haven't rolled nat 20s all the time, but I've gotten pretty good at getting high rolls. So that's been fun.
Oh, look at this. For last time we saw
Oh,
our
nice.
friends, they got Cindy one and me one, because he's so excited for us to do the Stargate version of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Which I pray to God we can, because he's going to be the DM. I just want to play. I don't.
Oh, yeah. And, even if you guys aren't necessarily able to play physically in the same room, you could do it through Zoom. You could do it through Discord. Like the way our group does it is we do it through Discord, where we have a channel, like when we're rolling initiative or skill checks and stuff like that. We have a little channel where we're like, okay, DM will type in like what role they're looking for, and everybody just rolls, and you can hear everybody roll either through a tray, or some people do like the dice tower thing where it will clickety clack click 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 click.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people that just hit a random number generator type dice thing, which those people are living chaotically, because those things are notoriously utterly random. But everybody will plug in their numbers, and it's entertaining. We do it through voice chat. So like when we're playing our character, I'll change the tone in my voice so that I sound like Fuego, and it's entertaining. And the characters that we've all played, none of us are playing the stereotypical character. Like we have a bard, and the whole bard philosophy in D&D has always been, oh, they're going to sleep and try to seduce anything and everything. Our bard doesn't. She is a very supportive bard. Like she'll use her spells and things to help support combat. We've got a rogue that, yeah, they'll go in for the quick kill easily, but they're not the klepto where they're going to steal anything and everything that's not nailed down. Then you've got my character, who is a warlock, but warlocks they're not necessarily evil, but they're always very kind of out for themselves. They're like, oh, well, you're beneath me, I'm not going to help you or whatever. My character's not that way, because my character has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything from 3 years prior. So, he had no clue who his patron was for the longest time. He's like, I know how to do these things, I just don't know how I know how to do these things. So like there was a very entertaining sequence where my character's confronted by his patron, this statuesque inflamed woman wrapped in flames. Like it looked like, I forget what character they described her looking like, but just she's trying to almost have like that seductive tone to her voice while she's trying to get my character to turn on his friends. And my character just is like, okay, look here, you inflamed strumpet. Not going to have any of that. And everyone just starts howling, because my character just very no nonsense is just like, nope, not going to do it. Not going to happen. So there's that antagonistic relationship he's got with the very person who's giving him power. So, if I take off my patron, she could just be like, nope, you no longer have power. Good luck. So my character has said on numerous occasions, he intends to punch her in the face, basically, is the politest way. He's going to make her, he's going to take her out, even if it means he goes with her. And like describing to the DM, describing the characters, how I try to portray him, he's kind of an interesting mix between Jack O'Neill, having that quick wit, that clever comeback or banter, whatever, every now and then, but then that stoic, wanting to be free approach that Teal'c, from Teal'c, that indeed, no nonsense type, and every now and then he has that wisdom that Teal'c would have. So it's a very interesting like balance between those two characters. And my character has on numerous occasions been called the dad of the group, because he is very protective of those around him. Although there was one situation where we had to get fancied up to go incognito to a fancy shindig. And we had to describe what our characters were wearing. Well, there was a really cool concept art for a Magneto going around a while back. Deep purple, black, very just cool stylized look. So I described that as what my character was wearing. And I forget who it was. It might have been the girl who's playing our bard. She blurts out, yeah, Fuego's usually dad, but tonight he's daddy. And I lost it just because it's the character, or it's the person playing the character that, isn't the typical bard, having kind of like a bard-esque line,
Yeah.
So, that set the tone for the absurdity that particular session ensued. But yeah, it's been fun. It's very creative, very just wild. And my character, well, everyone's characters, they're leaps and bounds not the same characters that they were when we started, but in a way they still are. You know how you have that character develop in a story like that you're watching or that you're reading? Very much that same feel. They've got those little marks where it's that character defining scenario or whatever.
Sure.
And I've already told the DM that if we get to the point in the game where my character does actually have that face-to-face confrontation where his freedom in essence is on the line with the combat situation, I'm hoping it goes the way I want it. But I've already told him, look, I know there's every possibility my character may not survive that encounter. And I hope the players have their tissues ready, because one of the cool things I like about the way our DM does it is if a character is hit with a situation where they're dead, there's no way they can survive the incident or whatever, just because of the numbers. If the way D&D works is if you have 200 hit points and you get hit with 400 points of damage, your character is considered dead, because once your character's hit points goes over the negative equivalent of your hit points. So if you have 200 hit points and you go into the negative 200, technically that's a loss of 400 hit points. Your character is considered dead. They can't make any saving throws. It's just not going to happen, which is unfortunate. But the thing that I like how our DM does it is if your character dies in combat, as long as they are not already unconscious, you get that heart-wrenching moment where they have that realization that they're done for.
Sure.
And you have that moment that they can say something to their party. I already have an idea what my character is going to say, and it's going to destroy them. And I am here for it. Because that's one of the things I love about with the way the DMs are letting me play with this is, for the longest time, my character didn't know who he was. He's now started to remember who he was because of an encounter with an NPC. So about a month ago, the DM and I were RPing in like a text chat on
I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah. And they're bawling, they're freaking out like, oh my God, oh my. So now it's evolved to the point where he knows who he is. He's embraced it, because realistically, he was always that character. It's just he didn't know who he was. He just, for whatever reason, had that mental block. So that's been fun. And there's been some just weird and bizarre things going on right now that's been leading to some very entertaining interactions with that character's wife.
Right.
Because he still wants to be that protective individual. So he slightly moved in front of her to protect her, and she's just like, move aside, I got this. And it's like, after you, it's that, okay, fair enough, after you, it's that, because you could almost see like O'Neill doing that, if there was somebody that, he was romantically involved with. I know they always implied it with Sam.
Obviously.
You could see him kind of like stepping in front of her, and she just like, it's okay, I got this.
Actually,
and then
with him, honest to God, I view him as treating her as such an equal that he would only do that if she were hurt.
Yeah.
Like he has such faith in her that he's,
oh, absolutely.
Like, no, you got this. You don't need me to be the guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which I'm slowly getting to that in the series. They laid the breadcrumbs for that fairly early on.
Have you watched Superman and Lois yet?
Superman and Lois, I have. I'm I'm intrigued with what they're doing with it. Again, it feels like this is a situation where I think they're going the route of trying to give us the Injustice Superman, but staying true to our Superman.
Okay.
They're giving us the world of Injustice's Superman, or the timeline of Superman in the Injustice, the dark Superman, but keeping our Superman.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that they're showing us Superman dealing with teenagers that, are, their whole world has changed for two reasons. One, they moved from Metropolis to Kansas, and one may or may not have superpowers.
Mhm.
And I like that they're showing that he's doing his best. They're stumbling. Everyone's stumbling, but they're learning something from the stumbling. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like his Superman.
Yeah, he does a really good job at making Superman feel like a Superman we're familiar with, but making it his own.
And there have been a couple times where they allow him, and they should. They need to have Clark, when he's in public, be a clumsy oaf.
Yeah.
They did that a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I like that. I hate the fact that they did the CW thing where they all of a sudden give him two teenage kids, boys.
Mhm.
And of course, the one has to have the hot topic drama of, let's do our checklist of what can we have him be. Oh, he's got to be, what? They went through the list, but he's got a whole bunch of emotional spectrum problems and like, and so, I mean, you could tell where things were forced from the beginning because it's not staying true to anything comic book wise. In the comics, he has a son. He doesn't have.
Well, that's in the comics. I think after the incident with the Crisis on Infinite Earth, I think they had
things.
Yeah, they changed it where they did give him two sons. So in the regards of the continuity that they've created for the TV show.
But again, the TV show is, all right, we need to have two kids that could be angsty. Can we get angsty kids? Okay. You got to make them teenagers. You can't make them younger. Oh, God forbid.
Yeah, which that's really the only part of the whole Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois that I'm bewildered by, because this clearly can't be set at the same time as the other CW shows, because
well, now it can, because remember with the Crisis, when everything was rewritten, some things changed.
Right. Some things changed. I get that, but it was my understanding the kids were still infants.
I know.
So
I don't think they want us to think too hard on it, which is stupid.
Maybe, I don't know.
I hate it, but I hate that, and I hate Lana Lang.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like Lana Lang. Doesn't have the history of Lana Lang. It was like the same thing they did with Jimmy. Let's slap this name on this character. I mean, she never knew that he was Superman. Where in the comics, she was the first person that he told. It was his girlfriend. It was his confidant. Which so now whenever she's with Lois, they kind of have that tension, whether they're married or not. It's that whole, I knew, who knows him better? You know him better? I knew him since he first,
Yeah.
And they took away her complete dynamic. They should have named her a different character.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Like, one of the characters that I'm actually surprised they didn't go this route with is the lady that's in charge of the Smallville Gazette. I'm actually surprised they didn't give her the Chloe role, like make her the Chloe character, because that would have been perfect for that particular tie-in, whatever.
Sure.
It would have been a nice little nod to Smallville. Then again, maybe they didn't want to give that character any acknowledgement because of the insanity that the actress had gotten involved with post fame, But yeah, now the Lana thing, that doesn't bother me. I like how they're showing the people that you think have the perfect life don't have the perfect life. I think they might be going a little heavy-handed with some of it in regards to. It just seems like they're really pushing that with that particular family. Like, had they just kind of glossed over it a little bit over the last couple episodes, and then this episode have that blow up where the daughter, has the thing with the dad, clearly drunk, clearly being an a-hole, and then going to the Smallville harvest thing, and then witnessing Jonathan Kent being an idiot,
right,
with the other high schoolers being an idiot. That I think would have been a more eased progression or eased escalation.
Yeah.
But
You
I do like the fact that they're showing Clark not having to switch into Superman to swoop in, use his abilities, and then get out of there. He showed up at that swap meet or the donation center as Clark real quick, saved those folks and got the heck out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how they're showing, even though the guy was being an a-hole, I like how they're showing that people know something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That fire didn't just mysteriously burn itself out. They know, they're showing that there is some level of intelligence, common sense, whatever.
There's a thing that every time we watch these episodes, we pause it and we talk about it. Again, it's a CW trope now. Mikey said, "Can you believe that CW means something now? It's very its own whininess." I'm like, yeah, it has. It's when you say CW, people go, "Oh,
yeah,
it's very CW. That's not good." Especially when it comes to superhero things. Well, the third episode I thought was the best so far because it laid off what I'm about to say. If you're Superman's friend, if you're Superman's child, if you're Superman's spouse, you're Superman's whatever. You get to be happy as can freaking be. It's the closest thing to a saint floating around your planet protecting it. You don't get to whine. You never told me you were Superman until now. Or you didn't show up to my football game. You should be GD happy you get to know or see him at any point for a second. These kids are the most whiny, selfish little SOBs. I'm not talking to you, Superman father. And they go stomp. The way that, first of all, and this goes for Lana's kid too, the disrespect that these kids show towards their parents and are allowed to be so mouthy. I'm like, who wrote that thinking that that's a real way that people get to talk to their parent? And unfortunately, I've seen it. There are parents who allow it. And that's why you get
they're leaning hard into that. Yeah.
So, but I said, logically, if you're Superman's child, when he tells you that he's Superman, not only should he become even more of a hero because he's your father, but two, you'd go, oh, that's a relief. Thank God. There are times when I didn't know where you were. Turns out you were saving the sun from bashing into Kansas or wherever. That explains so much. Thank you. Okay, now I understand. Instead, they have the kids act the opposite way. And I'm like, you disrespectful, self-indulgent little pukes. That drives us nuts. Because every episode, there's a part where they're, I'm not talking to you. And he just goes, oh, I don't know what to do. I could save the planet, but I don't know how to talk to my own child. I'm like, well, you start by now not allowing them to talk to you that way. Start with that. I'm hoping they get away from that because it is nauseating.
There's probably using a small pool of writers that are writing everything that shouldn't be writing everything.
Right. And again, it's that whole agenda. We need to have the kid who has the mental illness. We need to do that. We need to have, can we get a kid who tried to commit suicide? Lana's kid. Okay. And it depends on how much they're going to focus on, which again, CW, shift and show teenagers most of the time. If they do that, I'm not going to want to keep watching it. But when they show Superman or Clark or whatever, I'm like, that's being done pretty darn. Even the special effects are much better than they were on like Supergirl, because Supergirl, they would have them fly and fight in the air, and it was very stunted. It was very like computer. You could tell it was computer generated.
Yeah, there was something just kind of like
nothing
not
flowed.
hitting right.
Yeah, like all of a sudden they turned sharply, and like that didn't seem like a normal thing. Where this, every time they show Superman being super, I'm like, well, that looked cool, didn't it? Let's rewind that and watch that again. Here's a good example. On the third episode, we didn't watch this week's yet. That'll be tonight.
Okay.
He's in the room, and his father-in-law turns to him and goes, "There's a problem in such and such," and he goes, phew. But they pause him for that half second as he does this. He turns to move. Then they do the special effect of him blurring. On the Flash, they never took that moment to show him turn and speed up. It was always just a bloop. I love little attention to detail.
The little details, yeah.
It matters. It matters in your overall enjoyment. So yeah, we'll watch the 4th episode, I think it is, tonight. I think that's the one.
Yeah, I think this was the 4th episode, yeah.
We still have to get back to Swamp Thing. We watched the first episode of that. You could tell where it was originally on HBO Max because they bleep out all the cursing.
I think that was actually DC Universe.
DC Universe.
I don't think it was I don't think it was HBO Max.
It was the same.
Yeah, I mean it became HBO, part of HBO Max, but yeah.
But it was the, let's curse because we can. And now when I watch it on the CW, it's you mother. You can't hear what they're saying, and then they go back to talking. Like, I appreciate that. Thank you for cutting that out.
Yeah.
Did you watch The Real World, the original season?
No.
Okay. Well, this is kind of interesting. It really shows, The Real World. You know the show.
I live in it. Oh, the show? No. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Okay. You know how the basic idea is how it started off just filming 7 strangers living together. Okay.
Yeah.
It was a good show. It was interesting. It was the beginning of reality TV kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, then through the years, it went downhill because they didn't know what to do with these people. So they would just have them the first time they're like, you guys have to now get jobs. You have to decide on what job you're going to, this is like season 4 or 5. You guys have to have jobs. Okay. Well, they never decided on what job they were all going to have. So the season was over and they just argued the whole time. Then they gave them jobs and then they would just liquor them up and try and like have them
lowest denominator type.
Exactly. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Long story short, it's been gone now. It isn't on MTV. It's gone.
Yeah.
Well, Peacock, I think it is. Has a special. It's like a seasons thing where they reunite the original cast. It's interesting. It really is, because for those of us who saw the original when it was sincere, they get all 7 strangers, and they had a for lack of a better term, the way they would classify each of these. You had the girl who was 18 from Alabama, Bible Belt, very innocent. You had the guy who was gay before it was a cliche and you had to shove him in there. It was a sincere, he just happens to be. He's an artist. There's more to him than that. You had the poetry beatnik chick who played guitar and, everything's spiritual. And, I talk to ghosts on a regular basis. You had the angry black guy, as they called him. He calls himself that because that's how they defined him at the time. They had the 90s, this is 92. The 90s long hair.
The grunge look, yeah.
Grunge look. I'm a rock star kind of guy who's trying to make it in his bands. And then they had the guy who, always had his shirt off and was always muscle bound. And he ended up getting like many shows on MTV, The Grind. He was the host of The Grind, and his name's
Okay.
Eric. Well, I think that's everybody. Oh no, and then they had the black girl who was a rapper. Actually, an up and coming rapper. She had already had CDs and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, the way that it's funny because when they show this reunion, they're throwing in clips from 30 years ago. I can't believe it's been 30 years. And
that hurts.
Weird, right? I still think the 90s was 10 years ago. I don't think of it,
Yeah.
maybe 20. But then to go, whoa, 30 years. Really?
Yeah. It hurts.
Well, they get them all together and they show clips from the original run, plus new behind the scenes stuff from 30 years ago, just to keep you, they're updating you on what they've done since then and everything.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, the angry black guy, who, by the way, is a he's accomplished so much. He's written books. He's what did he say? Back before he was even on the show, he was doing things with his life.
Okay.
Like he wasn't some mouthy kid, even though that's the way he portrayed himself. Well, he would say things, and the most recent episode is something, because what they did was the girl from Alabama, who's the 18-year-old, and him got into an argument on the street. It ended up spilling out with them yelling at each other on the street. It's famous. And it was about race. And essentially, she really didn't do anything wrong. But he was known to be the type of guy who, even if he had a valid point, he started arguing with you before you decided on what the topic was going to be. You know what I mean? Because he's already angry.
Yeah.
And he's an activist, so he's trying to do the right thing, and he's trying to fight for rights, and which is wonderful. But his big problem was he's fighting with you. And you're like, we didn't even start a conversation yet. So he started with her, and long story short, it's famous because he would get in her face, and she's like, are you going to hit me? Because he was aggressive like that with his anger. And everything with him was, well, is it because I'm black? He's like, no, it's because you're a giant man hovering over me, yelling at me. Well, okay, so now the reunion comes up. And they're all hanging out in the same apartment. And they're like, oh, the TV will go boop, boop. And they'll say, here's a topic for discussion. And they showed a clip from 30 years ago. They thought for sure it was going to be that fight. Sure enough, it was him fighting with the, I talked to Ghost girl.
Yeah.
And it was about, basically what they were trying to say was things haven't gotten much better in the world, but at least more people are aware of it, I think is what the
consensus.
Because at the time it was the Rodney King thing with the
Yeah, that would have been around 92. Yeah.
It shows them watching that footage. And the girl says something about, oh, isn't this a wonderful country without the Rodney King thing? Just a random conversation in the middle of the day. We live in a good country. It's an amazing country. Well, he goes, no, it's not. And again, from his point of view, he instead of going, it's all right in some ways. However, let's not forget the trials and tribulations. Well, he goes at her full force. She's like, what are you talking about? Well, they show that argument. And he's like, people have been treated badly and because of my color and everything. And now it gets them today talking about it. And they look at each other. And to his credit, he's calm as can be. Granted, he's still got the angry chip on his shoulder and doesn't quite know how to have a conversation. But he's able to, instead of getting angry and yelling and screaming, he talks. He's going to say his piece. He's going to allow you to say, which is what the whole point of it was. And it could have been a beautiful moment. Instead, she keeps interrupting him. He's like, well, I'm not. She's like, well, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. He goes, nobody's saying this isn't about you. What I'm trying to say, she's like, no. I'm not. I've never been. I've gone to all over the country. This got so heated. Unfortunately.
So in essence, it sounds like it did a whole reversal.
Yeah, it was something because to his credit, he wasn't, even though, he could have, he didn't get angry. He stayed calm and was like, I'm not trying to argue with you. Just let me finish my sentence. And she wouldn't, to the point where the rest of the house goes, hey, girl, shut up. Like the one guy, the guy sitting between them goes, Becky, shut up. You're not letting him talk. You're both arguing where there doesn't need to be an argument. And he said, the Eric, I think is the guy, who goes, before we continue with this conversation, think about how you're coming off. In 3 months, when they show this footage, you're interrupting me and not letting me speak, which is really what the whole point of it, they were saying, the rest of the house was saying, you have to understand that there is still a racial problem, and he can't take it so personally and be defensive, saying me. It's not about you. It's listening to other people and understanding first and foremost that there is a problem. Well, she wouldn't listen to him. She was too defensive. So he goes, think about this. They're going to show this. Well, she got all upset. Long story short, instead of going, okay, I didn't look so good there. Let's start again. He leaves. Now he's trying to warn her, you're going to look bad. She goes, all right, I'm done. She doesn't say anything. She kind of packs her bag quietly. They're talking. She gets up. She walks out the door. They go, where are you going? I'm done. I don't need this reality bull crap anymore. She was embarrassed, essentially, is what happened. She was embarrassed because she looked like the putz. Own it, but then move on. All you had to do is let the guy talk. You don't have to even agree with them, even though I agreed with them completely. Just let him talk. It was because everybody, they even said that the girl from Alabama goes, I thought for sure they were going to show the clip of the two of us fighting. And they looked at each other. They said, no, we've discussed it since. We're good. We have no lingering issue. Because he agreed. Back then, he was the angry black guy. And she's like, yeah, and I'm sorry too, because I don't want to upset people. And they've been great ever since.
Well, it's that showing a level of understanding.
That's all you have to do.
And one thing that always slays me is, and I can honestly say, I think we're all guilty of this, is if we do or say something that is perceived as a racist action, or using a racist not expletive, using a racist expression. Like one expression that I know I have said at least a handful of times in my life is, I'll use a deviation of it because I don't want to end up getting us dinged on any streaming services here, but beating somebody like a redheaded stepchild is another variation of this particular vernacular. I'm not proud of it. One of I had said this one day while I was working at Hershey Park during the off season. So it was me and like 3 other people. And I wasn't even thinking when I said it, but after I said it, you could hear a pin drop. And my one coworker looks at me. Now, everybody that I worked with, they looked like me. They were white, dark hair or blonde hair or whatever, and the one guy looked at me and goes, what did you just say? Because we were just talking, and then I stopped and I didn't repeat it because I thought about it. And he looked at me again. He goes, you realize what you just said was racist. Now, remember, I didn't actually say beat somebody like a redheaded stepchild. I said something else that I'm not going to say because I'm not proud of it.
Sure.
And when he said what you said was racist, I looked at him and I'm like, it ended up actually evolving into like a half hour or an hour conversation about how he approached telling me what I said was racist. And it was the thought of, Dan, his name's Dan. I said, Dan, I'll be damned, I never actually even thought about that. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, that's an expression that I can't tell you how many times I've heard it over the course of my life because of, various family members or whatever, just saying things. And I said, and like the look on the other two people I'm working with, they were stunned because they thought I was going to lay into this guy. Like, I can't believe you just called me racist.
Sure,
blah,
sure.
blah, blah.
The
It's like,
defensive thing, yeah.
yeah. And he goes, well, yeah. He goes, I know you're not a racist person because you'll fight for whoever's working with you, regardless of their color, creed, religion, whatever. He goes, so I know you're not a racist person. And I said, well, I genuinely appreciate the fact that you didn't call me out for being one. I appreciate that you brought to my attention that something I did was.
Sure.
And he looked at, like, the other two people are just like waiting for things to just,
Sure.
And it was like, and one of them finally said something like, that's rather telling the type of person you are, because you didn't go right for the proverbial jugular. You didn't go for the defensive right away. You had the clarity of mind to realize that he wasn't calling you that. And I said, well, I know he wasn't because of how he said it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He goes, because I said, do you realize what you said was?
Sure.
And I'm like, holy shit, that just boggled my mind. And I think that's something a lot of people, when they're confronted by somebody who describes something that they said or something that they did as racist, we're too quick to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not. Whereas because of wherever my brain was literally aligned at that particular moment, and I think what it was is the fact that at that moment, all conversation had dropped. There was no background noise. There was nothing. It was literally the four of us in an area probably not much bigger than my bedroom, or not my bedroom, my living room, like 30 feet by 20 feet, not overly huge, but big enough that we could all be spread around. And it's just like, it had that resonance. And it's just like, wow, and that's why, if I happen to say something off color or inappropriate and someone does either say that was racist or what you said was racist, I know immediately they're not talking about me as the individual. They're talking about whatever stupid expression I said or whatever gesture, I don't think, well, there probably are some gestures that are considered racist, but anyway, I guess hardwired at that point that if anybody says something that you've done has been a racist action or word, they're not talking about you, they're talking about what you did,
well,
which ended up evolving into a conversation of, well, at what point is somebody actually a racist? And the way my friend Dan put it is, it's the habitual action being used after being addressed multiple times.
Sure.
He goes, like, if tomorrow we were to, be working and you said that again,
you've already been, you've
been
made aware.
You've got one mark on the list of, okay, you're leaning the wrong way there, bud, and there's other expressions that, fall into the spectrum of, that leans you towards that way of thinking. And again, it was that really interesting conversation where at some point that type of thinking gets kind of like insidious and it starts warping your perception of things. And I think, unfortunately, that's what happens with a lot of people that have that hate in their heart towards, the different demographics. And it's freaking sad.
Well, that was one of the things that they were talking about on that episode too, because his point was, there's certain racist things that maybe, unfortunately, he didn't also point out the fact that it's not just white people.
No, yeah, no.
But
which you said this is on Peacock, right?
I think so. It's called
While you're talking, I'm going to check this out.
Real World Homecoming, I think is what they called it.
All right, I'll go to IMDb. They'll probably have a good idea where it's
It
at.
starts in episode 2 and then goes. They're only half hour, so I think you're going to zip right through them. It's funny too because Eric has COVID, so he's recording from down the street in a hotel room. He has to zoom in for their chats.
Yeah,
but yeah, you'll find it fascinating.
It's actually on Paramount Plus.
That's it, Paramount Plus. So anyway, he was trying to say that there's things that we have to, and you and I both know this. We've talked about this before. You have to unteach the next generation because there's certain, like you said, sayings that maybe you use, but you didn't mean it in a racial way, but the origin of it came from
Absolutely,
somewhere else, right? Therefore, you could insult somebody without you trying.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that's
I think
that's
that,
something
that goes across all colors, all whatever.
Oh yeah, I think
boundaries.
there's elements of any culture's history that would need to be evaluated. Like, is this something we really want to pass on?
And I think just realistically, I think two things would need to happen. You need to be sincere with your words, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, like your friend, be understanding and not be, now I get to jump on you. I get to, ooh, you said something
like
wrong.
I said, it was that just, you could hear a pin drop because everything had just, it was like literally, it was, to pull a expression from current pop culture, it was like time had stopped and I was the Flash looking around like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's that, well, wait a minute, what did you just say?
But that doesn't happen enough, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, no, and unfortunately it's because we as a society have gotten to a very reactive stage.
Cancel culture.
It's not even cancel culture. Let's be honest. It's accountability.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about cancel culture is part of the...
Cancel culture is not a thing. It's accountability, and it's the way people go about holding each other accountable.
Right.
Cancel culture is the dumbest expression I've ever heard, and I freaking hate it. It's holding people accountable. Let's call it what it actually is.
Which is great, but cancel culture is, to me at least, the way I've understood it is, instead of addressing it, instead of talking about it, just go... hate you, and then end it.
Here's the thing. Realistically, sorry, folks, we're going to get slightly political here for a hot second.
Oh, boy.
Cancel culture is very often used from people that, I know this is not you, so don't think I'm calling you this.
No, I don't.
It tends to be toted by a lot of Republican people because they don't like change. Well, here's something.
Or accountability.
Or accountability. That's why I say it's not about cancel culture. It's about accountability.
Right.
Here's the thing. Three things that have been in the news here over the last couple of weeks are Potato Head, Dr. Seuss, and Pepe Le Pew. Let's be honest. Pepe
I think
Le
I know what
Pew-
you're going to say because I love this quote, but go ahead.
Let's be honest. Pepe Le Pew is always been a problematic character. He is the epitome of not understanding no. Or consent. I am bummed that they're taking him out of the new Space Jam movie because apparently the sequence that he was in, he was doing his thing on some young actress, and the actress backhanded him. And I'm like, great. Consequences, literally the personification of your actions having personification, or actions having consequences. Perfect. And the actress was kind of bummed because that's how she looked at it. And it's brilliant. That's great. I like that. But you got these, Republican dieharders that don't understand that. Okay. Oh, and the Muppets, because apparently the Muppets are being Muppets aren't being canceled. Disney Plus is taking a page out of Warner Brothers books with the freaking Looney Tune cartoons where they have that disclaimer up. That's all they're doing. They're just putting a disclaimer up. Acknowledging that we are no longer the people that made this product, but we're being respectful to the people who did make the product, so we're showing it in its original format. There are just some things that, by today's standards, would be considered problematic. Okay, next. You got Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is being canceled. No, he's not. The Dr. Seuss estate, who owns, I think there's like 60 plus books of Dr. Seuss, which, let's be honest, I only thought there was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But they are deciding to, for the time being, remove 6 books, which nobody's ever freaking heard of any of the 6 books. They're like the bottom 6 books in the sale list. So they're pulling them because of depictions of other races. Yeah, other races and cultures. Fine. I'd be willing to bet you money. 5 years' time, those books will be redrawn and re-released. Still in the Dr. Seuss style, just not in the problematic depiction. Willing to bet money on that. Okay, so that's that one handled. Again, it's not being canceled by society. It's a business decision by the people who own the freaking thing.
Sure.
Again, none of this is actually cancel culture. It's entities holding themselves accountable.
Great.
Now for my favorite, and this is actually something I think my dad pointed out. Mr. Potato Head. When it was originally released, it was not Mr. Potato Head or Mrs. Potato Head. It was Potato Head. And guess what? It came with parts for the male version and parts for the female version. Because let's be honest, it was about a set of lipstick, lips, or a freaking mustache. That was the only definition between the two.
On an actual potato too, by the way.
On an actual potato, yeah. Then it evolved to the hunk of plastic. Then it evolved, well, wait a minute. We can get more money from people if we split these, which is exactly what they did. Now they're realizing, well, gee, how can we make drama to get people to be interested in this hunk of plastic again? Let's no longer have a Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head. Let's just call it Potato Head and then sell the parts together. Well, wait a minute. Didn't we do that way back when we started? Well, yes, we did. Well, how are we going to make this, more profitable for us? Well, you know how it was $20 for the Mr. Potato Head and $20 for the Mrs. Potato Head? Slap $50 on that SOB and rebrand it. That's exactly what they're doing. Some of these companies, and I will freaking call Hasbro out on it because that's what they're doing. They're manipulating people for that almighty dollar.
Right.
And we need to be freaking smarter than that.
Right.
You got those political talking heads that instead of talking about actual things that are important, like I saw yesterday, a-hole in Georgia is trying to make it illegal for people to be given water in line when they're waiting to vote.
Right.
You've got people that now that things are slowly starting to open back up, you've got that mountain of insanity that has been happening over the last 2 weeks from Atlanta to, I think it was Colorado again. And I think there was a third incident where some a-hole with a gun. You've got all the other issues that we had forgotten about over the course of the pandemic starting to rear their heads. Actual, genuine, serious issues that do need to be addressed. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about it. 6 books that nobody's ever read, a hunk of plastic that anybody over the age of like 6 doesn't care about.
Right.
It's just like, guys, stop being manipulated.
Right. Well, the extreme that I was referring to with when they say cancel culture, wasn't even thinking about those things because you're right. Cancel culture stuff that I've heard that I go, yeah, this is stupid, is when there's basically the point we were trying to make, you and I, was about the conversation. Be sincere.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, try to be patient and understanding, because as humans, we're going to make mistakes. We're not, but if we're sincerely trying to be good people, if you say something that possibly offends somebody, well, now the other side has to, like your friend did, willingly, carefully and kindly just have a conversation.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
let me finish what I was saying, just because I want to tie this in. The cancel culture aspect that I was referring to was where there isn't that conversation, where people are not something possibly, again, whatever it is, can be debated. But by golly, have that debate, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because the
Have an honest
examples
conversation. Like,
the things I've seen, instead of having the conversation, they're just ending things. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Don't be so quick to end whatever. I saw a quote today where they said, it's stupid to judge things from 500 years ago by today's standards. We are smarter people. It's like yelling at a caveman for bashing a rock against another rock. They didn't know better. Like now we do. You know, you can't rewrite history.
Yeah. Well, and that opens up a whole other can of worms. Like I do personally feel like we need to actually teach history for what it was.
Sure.
History is not history is not the Disney story we've been told.
Sure.
You know, our own country has done some really horrific and terrible crap to our own citizens, let alone the people that were here before us.
That the guy in the real world would always bring that up. Somebody said something about, whatever, but instead of having a conversation back in the 90s, he'd go, yeah, well, Columbus killed all the Indians. Well, wait a minute. Whoa, you jumped from here to there.
It's like it's like one of the things I told a friend of mine, like, this is why I'd never be allowed to be a history teacher, because I would actually teach history, not the, I don't want to say whitewash, but I'll just say the Disneyfication of history. Yes, our country has done some amazing and great things, but we've also shown that we are capable of a lot of egregious things.
Right. Well, that's why I always have the conversation with my kids, because I don't want them to be fooled, and I want them to hear, okay, this is what they're telling you. Okay, true. However, here's some other stuff that you need to know.
Yeah, like I was talking with a guy who actually was a history teacher. What he would love to see school boards adopt is for kids that are in elementary school. Okay, give them I think he said the Disney TLDR version of history. Hit the beats, but don't dig too deep, on account of a child's not necessarily going to be able to fully process a concept like the Holocaust.
Right.
The concept of, there were bad guys doing some really bad things to people. So parts of the world, came together and helped stop bad guy from doing ABC. But then like in middle school, start to ease them into the heavier versions of it.
Right.
And then in high school, heavier even so. That way, when they get to college, they're not hit by a bus, not realizing that, oh shit, what did we do to the Indians that lived here before us? We did what? Or what did we do with, Japanese citizens during World War II? What? You know
what? I'll tell you something. That is a perfect example. I knew this before I was in college. I knew it during, and I've seen it since, where college kids are so self-righteous and so I'm going to change the world because, and I think it's exactly what you said. In a lot of cases, the harder truth was hit then in college instead of sooner. So now they feel superior to the rest of the world. And that's where you get that uppityness of a college student who's going to, I know better than the rest of the world. Well, let's back it down. I remember dealing with that, watching in high school kids. I'm like, well, you're being the college cliche is what you're being.
Yeah.
Tone it back a bit. Realize you have limits. Do good things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Fight for what's right, but understand that you are not superior to all the guys who came before you.
Yeah. You might be slightly smarter because your information might be more up to date.
Right. But possibly. Do something good.
Yeah. Show that you are worth the clout, energy.
I think it all, no matter
whatever.
No matter what the issue is, I think it's sincerity, and I think sincerity is a big part of it, whether you're the guy saying the thing or doing the thing, or you're the other side of it that needs to be more.
Yeah, there's a great speech from the 12th Doctor's tenure. It's the
Be kind?
No, it was when he was talking to the Zygon Clara and the lady that was in charge of Unit, and they have
that's a great
war broken down to just the press of a button. Beautiful speech.
Yep.
If I could quote it, I would.
Right.
But it boils down to you need to talk and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't necessarily have to fully agree, but you need to at least listen so that you can better understand the other person's point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not about winning the argument, which I think,
it's about at least understanding the perspective of the other person.
I think the guy on The Real World, which then affected all of them in that room, was he was like, you know what the big difference for me from the 90s was, and now I had to win every argument.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, and my point was, you were arguing when there necessarily didn't need to be one. It could have just been a conversation. But he goes, you know, back then I had to dominate and dominate and dominate. Now it's not about that. It's about understanding that we're all imperfect and we should just be trying to do our best. I'm like,
oh yeah,
what that was. I'm like, you have,
and that shows
so
that guy grew a heck of a lot over the last 30 years.
Whereas he said afterwards, when the girl left, he goes, I don't think she grew at all. I think everybody else in this room did, but the one who just ran away and stopped filming because she was embarrassed, sadly, I don't think she's grown.
Yeah, or she hasn't grown nearly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Or she grew in a different direction that was not good.
Her reaction to being embarrassed was what was the big mistake. It wasn't just that she was interrupting him, because you can eventually get past that, but the fact that she decided to run away instead of going, okay, maybe I handled that wrong, let's start again. I'll be curious, because they only come out one episode a week, so they're at like
it looks like they've got 2 more episodes.
There you go.
So I'll wait until all the episodes are out and then I'll watch it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good that it's on Paramount Plus, because I am not ashamed to say I love, well, CBS All Access has become Paramount Plus. I love that streaming service. It's very well done, and with them joining up with Paramount, it's getting better. I mean, their catalog just exploded.
Well, they also are redoing, they've done the MacGyver series in high definition, which may be coming to Blu-ray in the next little while.
Hopefully.
There's potential. I hope it becomes what I think I can announce eventually. Something that involves me, potentially.
Well, fingers crossed.
I know. Just the fact that's even a possibility, I'm kind of giddy about.
Yeah. I know there's been a lot of talk with potential additional Stargate stuff coming up.
That'd be nice.
There's been with
the Brad Wright and
Wright, yep. And apparently Michael Shanks had done an interview with somebody recently.
It was the two of them talking, and he said about how he's currently writing dialogue for Daniel, and everybody went, "Whoa, did you hear that? What do you mean currently writing dialogue?"
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Me too.
Cautiously hopeful, I should say. But yeah, a show that Jess and I got into is Clarice.
I watched the first episode.
It's been interesting. It's one of those slow burn type shows. I like the actress, and I'd laugh. I jokingly, it was like the second or third episode we were watching, and I said, you know, it's really cool that they found a way to integrate the footage from Silence of the Lambs. And dude just looked at me like I was a damned fool. And she goes, Nate, yeah, that's not footage from the original film. I'm like, oh, you mean? I remember seeing that scene. She goes, yeah, you remember seeing that scene because the producers went and literally tried to refilm the sequences that they needed for the flashbacks and stuff. They, like, if she was standing like this, she's standing like this. If Buffalo Bill was, they fooled me. But it's been interesting. I like the actress that's playing Clarice. I think she's doing a really good job. It's unfortunate because of like the way the contracts are and everything that they're probably not going to be able to do anything with Hannibal.
Sure.
But I like that they're giving Clarice her own time to shine.
Yeah.
You know?
I watched Mr. Mercedes, the first season of that.
Okay.
That's based on Stephen King novels. He's done 3 of them with the title character.
Okay,
And it's the guy, you remember 28 Days Later, the father and the daughter, and the father looks up and he gets the blood in his eye. He's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's been
stay
a
away,
while,
stay
but-
away. He's Irish.
Yeah.
Well, he's the lead.
Okay, that'd be cool to check out.
It's check it out. I watched in a week. I watched the first season, which is 10 episodes, I want to say.
Probably 10 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, 8 to 10. But all right, I'll watch more.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's they do a really good job at delving into her backstory.
Right.
And the dynamic between her and the other FBI agents. And it's very well done at capturing what life was like in the early 90s, because nowadays you can just whip out your cell phone and call somebody.
Sure.
Shameless plug, by the way. My old cell phone case broke.
Oh.
So I had to get the Dark Ops cell phone case out. But yeah, I like how because like one episode I'm like, why the hell don't they just 90s, they don't have cell phones, right? Or wow, that bug is rather huge. Why didn't they try to technology. It's just it's fun. Like I said, I like the dynamic that they're having with everybody and everything. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long it goes. Another series I watched that was really good, Coyote with Michael Chiklis.
Sure.
That was good.
One of those I'm curious about. I there's so many shows I'm like, all right, I have to find the time and then I have to make sure it's worth it. And
yeah, no, I get it. That's part of the reason why I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold off getting into a lot of new things. I'm going to go back and watch something that I know visually, like almost shot for shot in my head, but I want to rewatch Stargate.
Absolutely.
So. But,
go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. There's all manner of just stuff to enjoy right now. I mean, we're still living in a great heyday of entertainment, literally at our fingertips. So, I mean, I know Jess is excited because Hey Dude and something else are coming to Paramount Plus. She's like, I remember that. I'm like, you're gonna drive me batty wanting to watch that, aren't you? Oh, we're going through watching Clone Wars.
Okay.
We're less than 20 episodes from the end, and we're watching them in chronological order, not in release order.
Okay.
And it's really interesting seeing, like, we just passed a storyline where you see that Order 66 was not just a spur of the moment thing. That was there from inception, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just rather, and Jess is like, I'm going to be so mad. I'm growing attached to these damn clones, and I'm going to have to watch them murder their friends, and this is just not cool, And I'm like, well, it's going to be interesting because I've watched Rebels. She has not. So it'll be interesting to see how they go through the final season, and then there's the gap between Clone Wars and then Rebels. And then I know she's going to want to watch The Bad Batch when that comes out, which I think that's supposed to span the time between Clone Wars and Rebels, I think. But it's phenomenal.
We're very lucky, and there's too many people whine and complain about, like, anytime somebody says, what's your least favorite Marvel movie? What are you talking about? What's the worst Marvel movie? You're out of your mind. And the fact that your mind would even go there, you should just thank God.
Well, it's really a sign of someone's youth because they don't remember when we didn't have such things,
Right. You're spoiled.
Like there's a young lady that is on TikTok that for a while I was getting annoyed with her because she would often, in my mind, kind of like just ungratefully complain about things. And then I caught one of her videos where she was actually it was like a multi-part because they can only do like a minute's worth of talking in their videos. She had gone on and said, please understand, I love everything that we're getting. Granted, my entire life, I'm young enough that my entire life has been filled with Marvel in some form or another. However, I don't complain for the sake of complaint. I complain because I have been exposed to the Marvel films and now thankfully the Marvel TV shows my entire life. watching the first Iron Man movie, I was old enough to really kind of understand and digest comic book stories. So between, my family members and friends getting me into the comic books and everything, I have, an extraordinary amount of knowledge, she goes, which I understand is probably nothing compared to a lot of people, but it's because I care so much about the source material and what it's enabling people to digest that don't necessarily want to have the time for comics. That's where my complaints come from. It's not a complaint. It's not complaining to just complain. It's complaining because I know what it could be, I know what it is, and I know what it can be. It's that multi-layered love. And like one thing she goes, for example, I love Spider-Man. I love Tom Holland. I'm not necessarily a fan of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man for this reason. I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man because of this. But the way they're presenting Tom Holland's Spider-Man doesn't feel like the Peter Parker that the other two were based off. Like, and she backs up her complaints, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I can respect your point of view a lot more now because you've taken the time to explain it. And I actually commented that on her status, and she goes, thank you for understanding, thank you for understanding the point I was trying to make, because I know sometimes we as people who are passionate about something, we can step on our own feet. And I'm like, you got me. You're great.
I appreciate that, because Cindy and I were talking about this the other day. We said, we're in this is a new phenomena that couldn't have happened 10 years ago. There is the generation that thinks that they're superhero / Marvel experts. And I work with a couple. Like, oh, I know all about Marvel. Oh, I know how it's, really? Yeah. Have you ever read any of the comic books? No, I just know the movies. I'm like, oh, you're precious. Like, I just have to go, oh, you're very
limited. Now, if someone were to come up to me and say, I'm a Marvel Cinematic Universe, or I'm the Marvel movie expert, okay, I can respect that.
Without a doubt.
And like I said, with this young woman, she took the time, instead of just hitting, the videos and not actually explaining her point of view or her perspective.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I can, because I was getting annoyed with her. I'm like, okay, she wasn't to the point where she was belligerent, but it's like, okay, there's something we're missing. And I don't know if somebody had like sent her a message through the message system or whatever, but the one day she's like, you know what? I'm going to take the time. And I'm like, you know what? I can understand your passion a lot more now.
Yeah.
Because you took the time to explain, and I was able to actually find it.
And with everything else, this goes back to everything we were just saying about treating people properly.
Mm-hmm.
Know your place, know your strengths, but know your weaknesses. And,
absolutely.
And she was very smart to go, I understand I don't know everything, and here's how I know that. Whereas the people that I'm dealing with a lot are people who come to me and go, tell me about how you like Marvel. And I go, oh, buckle up. I have knowledge, I read. So, but yet they can't be bothered. They have that arrogance of, oh no, I watch the movies. I'm like, then you understand that you're limited.
The movies are a great starting point. Like, I would tell somebody, if you really enjoy the Marvel movies,
please go back.
There are certain storylines that I'm familiar with from the comics that I could suggest. Here are 2 or 3 people that can definitely suggest other storylines to read.
Right.
Like, for example, like I would love to see them do like a Red Sun or the Injustice storyline on film.
They did.
I like how the CW's animated would be perfect.
They did.
I think.
They
did.
They did
the Red Sun animated movie. You're right. But yeah, like with the Lois or Super. Lois Clark. I keep doing that. With the Superman and Lois. I like how they're sort of giving us the Injustice storyline, but they're giving us kind of like an offshoot from it, which I think is a nice way of trying to ease people into the concept of a Superman gone that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I like how they're not saying, oh yeah, Tyler, yeah, he's going to be that Superman. Well, no. Tyler's going to be the Superman we're all more or less familiar with, we know, we love, but through the interactions with this Elseworlds Luthor, we're going to show you this version of Superman through his eyes, which I think is brilliant.
That could be fun.
I'm a little mad at his father-in-law because he's being an idiot, but let's be honest, I think his father-in-law has always been portrayed like an idiot.
Yeah.
So I do hate to say this. I know.
I was like, we got to wrap this up, man.
Yeah, we got to. My stomach has been. My stomach has been telling me it's time to eat, and I got a text message from my loving wife with a burger emoji because I told her I was going to make burgers on the grill today.
Well, it's been 3 hours, but I think that's okay because it's been our 100th episode, and
so it'll be the Jackson Schell cut episode.
Yeah, but I want to thank everybody who's subscribed,
hopefully still listening,
those who have donated, those who follow us, and those who are listening right now. Maybe it's your first time and you were intrigued because it's our 100th episode.
Hopefully,
please subscribe, continue sharing the love. Thank you to all our guests through the years, and we'll just keep it going.
Yeah, and if there's any kind of like shows, movies, comics, podcasts, or whatever folks would maybe want you and I to talk about or check out or whatever, I mean, heck,
have an opinion on, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to some oddball stuff here of late just to like, oh, that thumbnail looks interesting, I'll check that one out, or
yeah.
But although then again, there's just hallmarks that I go back to and listen to because they're very well done. So yeah.
So thank you, everybody. We will see you next time. And as always,
stay excited.
The Never Gets Old podcast is part of the Forever Adventure Network. Music by Harmony Constant. Some artwork by Joseph Arnold and Jared Brown. Donations can be made to Patreon, to Mac Jackson. Join our group pages on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Never Gets Old Pod. Please subscribe, rate, and review. And remember, stay excited, everyone. The Forever Adventure Network. Welcome to the adventure. Hi, everybody. It's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything. Pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series, an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.